It's Halloween, because why wouldn't it be another holiday? Welcome to my first video here on this fancy new channel. I've been doing YouTube as a gamer for a while. This is my first time doing like face-to-face, face-to-camera content. I've been wanting to do this video specifically for a couple months now. Let me go ahead and say it's heavily inspired by Mike's Mike. I love him. I love him so much. If you haven't seen his videos, I don't know what side of YouTube you're on, but you're on the wrong side. I'm going to have him linked down below because, like I said, this is very much influenced from him. I found his videos in like a really dark time and am loving, loving that he's growing so quickly. I love the long form content that he's done. I'm very, very pleased that we all seem to be ready for content like this. Another one of my favorite people right now is Cari Can Read. She did like a recap of the most of the Sarah J. Maas universe. She's done Akatar and Crescent City, and I don't know if she's going to do Throne of Glass. Very much influenced by the two of them. There's been a couple other people that have like branched off and started doing these. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite shows, The Vampire Diaries. And now there is a video out there by Jenny Nicholson, which I'll have linked down below. She kind of focused on the lore of the show itself, the like vibes and like the breakdown of the story and the characters, and not really the plot, which is what Mike's Mike does, which is what we will be doing today. Because if there's one thing I love, it's dissecting episodes, talking about plot elements, just deep diving in. Okay, I love it. This is one of my favorite shows. None of my friends watch it. None of my friends even really care about it. So I've been out here on my own loving the Vampire Diaries for years and having no one to talk to. So I'm coming to you, YouTube, and we're going to see what happens. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you're excited because it's time to jump into the Vampire Diaries. Here we go. Right off the bat, episode 1 opens with just vibes on vibes on vibes. They're just smacking us in the face with that it's a 2000s vampire core show. So it opens with this like broody, moody male voice. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it and tell you that it's Stefan Salvatore. I'm also going to spoil that I'm not a Stefan girly, okay? I'm not going to... I was going to say I'm not going to slander him. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to make any promises, okay? I'm just going to tell you up front right now, before we go any farther, I don't like Stefan, okay? I don't. It's all right if you do. There's nothing wrong with liking Stefan. Elena likes Stefan a lot for several seasons. Okay, so he's just telling us, while we're looking at like kind of the side of his face and trees and fog, that he's a vampire and he's tired and life sucks. Okay, then we hard cut to a couple in a car. They're driving down a road. Where are they going? We don't know. And they hit someone. Just out of nowhere. Smack, gone. So the boy gets out of the car and he's like, oh my God, please don't be dead. Person on the ground that is very clearly not okay, jumps up and just like attacks him, okay? The girl is in the car and she's like, what is going on? What has happened? Where's my boyfriend? Why didn't he come back to the car yet? So she's sitting there, she's freaking out. The body of the boy just like right onto the car, right onto the hood of the car. And she's rightfully like, oh. She freaks out. She gets out of the vehicle. She's running, okay, flying down the street. So it's so funny, these opening episodes. I forgot, okay, what a terror this second person is in the beginning. Just in the way that I forget how much I hate Stefan, I forget how bad character number 2 is, that I'm not going to name yet because I'm going to keep him a surprise. But I forget that he is just like such a terror. Just like killing people left and right, man. So the girlfriend's running and she gets like snatched and like jerked out of frame, which is another thing that I love that they do. There's a lot of like, looking back at them, quite comical like death scenes where it's like, and they get like yeeted out of frame. So that's what happens to her. Then we hard cut yet again to Elena, little Miss Elena. I have a lot of thoughts on her. She's not like other girls, and that's what this opening montage shows us, okay? She's not like other girls. She's in her room, she's journaling because everybody journals in this show. We learn that like something has probably happened to her parents. We don't know what yet, but something feels off about the parents. Because when she goes downstairs, we meet her little brother who could easily be a 25-year-old man. That is the other thing with this show that's so funny is the actors are all too old, okay? They just are. Occasionally they sort of look like maybe they could be high school seniors, but like they're supposed to be like Jeremy is a freshman, I think, because he's younger than Elena. And then Elena and her little gaggle of people are sophomores. Which is just laughable. So, okay, 25-year-old man, his name is Jeremy, sweet little Jeremy. Don't love him, okay? Don't love him. He makes a lot of questionable decisions, but in the beginning of the show, he is a clearly tortured little boy. Again, something's happened to their parents, we think, so he's not dealing with it well. We also meet Aunt Jenna, who is the aunt, who is approximately 2 years older than Elena, but Jenna is the aunt. She's supposed to be like a grad student. So again, something's happened. Why are they living with Aunt Jenna? Then on the way to school, we meet Bonnie, who is honestly my favorite. I really, really love Bonnie Bennett. So she is in the car with Elena. She's driving to school. And she's going on about how, like, she's probably a psychic. Like, her grandma, who, like, they really... they are really mean to Grams. I forgot. They're really mean to Grams in the beginning. They just keep saying, like, oh, she's a drunk, and oh, she's crazy. Crazy Grams thinks I'm a psychic. And it's like, Grams becomes an integral part to the show later on. But for right now, she's just crazy drunk grandma. Bonnie then almost like fully runs them off the sidewalk. And Elena has like a full panic attack. And Bonnie's like, oh my God, are you okay? And Elena's like, I'm fine. Because something happened to their parents. Was it a car accident? Probably. So Stefan is at school. He's a grown man. He's at school, okay? Then Bonnie, who I have just told you guys is my favorite character, okay? I freaking love her. She can do no wrong. And yet, it's a 2000 show, okay? So a lot of it did not age well. One of those like biggest things being that Bonnie makes a transgender joke and it is just snuck in there. Like it's just normal conversation. Her and I think she's talking to Elena. They're walking through the hallways and she's just like and Elena is just like and like they just keep as if it wasn't an awful thing to say. Really glad that all of this was like left in the early 2000s along with the horrible low-rise jeans. We're trying to bring them back right now. I've never hated something so much in my life. So then Caroline shows up, and Caroline Forbes. A lot of people hate Caroline, including Elena and Bonnie, who seem to just really dislike her. It's kind of like she's introduced, and they're like a little trio, but you can tell that Elena and Bonnie are just like, hi, Caroline, please leave. Her character is a little confusing because we're given this like impression of her. And in episode 2, they're going to kind of quash that a little bit. And it's going to be like, maybe she's not the mean girl. They're going to keep picking on her about being the mean girl. And a lot of really awful things are going to happen to her. And then by the end of the series, you're going to like her a lot, just like me. Because I like Caroline a lot. I think there's a lot to Caroline that's fun and special. But right now, she's just like blonde and pretty and rude. And that's it. That's her whole thing. So then we see Jeremy, he's hanging out with like clearly like the rougher, like edgy kids. There's a guy there that's like being a jerk. And then there's a girl with that guy that Jeremy clearly likes. Bonnie and Elena are like watching Stefan. They're like talking about how cute he is from behind. He uses some like freaky vampire powers to convince the receptionist to like let him in. He's like, you don't need my records. You don't need my vaccination reports. I'm a teenager. Let me come to this school. And she's like, okay. Elena is not impressed by Stefan, whereas Bonnie is just like drooling over him in the hallway. So Elena follows Jeremy into the bathroom and they have this like really cringy conversation about drug use. She's like, oh, you are so cool, Jer. It's like, so 2000s, but it's so funny. There's a couple of them. I feel like Elena is prone to like funny line readings. Character B, that, the attacker in the street, he's also prone to some really funny line readings. She tells him that, and clearly he's hurting. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's very much just like, leave me alone, Elena. You're not my mom, because our mom's probably dead. Elena comes out of the bathroom, having accosted her brother about his drug use, and bumps into Stefan. And they have this little meet cute moment where they do the thing where it's like, oh, you walk this way. No, you walk this way. And they like keep running into each other. Again, he's so boring. He doesn't do anything. I don't even think he like properly smiles at her. He just is sort of like, oh, and like smolders at her a little bit. And she like trips over herself because she's so into it. And I'm like, what is he giving you? Because he's giving me brick wall. Then they're like in class, and Elena, who has told us that like she's kind of sad, she's hiding it from everybody, is like way into him all of a sudden. They're like making eyes in history class, okay? Who is he? Where did he come from? His monologue in the beginning said he was coming home. Where has he been? We're in Mystic Falls, by the way. Mystic Falls, Virginia. Elena, because she is a quirky, little weird, not like other girls, girl, walks home through the cemetery, and there's like crows following her. She keeps seeing them. Remember when Bonnie ran off the road earlier? Crow involved with that as well. So there's like crows following Elena around. She pauses at a grave to journal, and we see that it's her parents' graves. Her parents are dead. We knew that, but now it's confirmed. Complaining in her journal about how she's not fine. And even though she's been pretending all day and lying to her friends about being fine, no one can tell she's not fine. No one noticed that she's secretly struggling. Girl, you lied to them. Fog rolls in. Just thick, like from a machine fog, just like blows in, and she's like, oh, this is weird. And then the crows, and she's like, oh my god, crows. She's seen no one chasing her except these birds, and she's like, nope, yeet, I gotta go. And she just runs, and then Stefan is there. So she like bites it, and he's like, whoa, are you okay? And she's like, are you following me? Which, girl, thank god you have some survival instincts, because why is he in the cemetery with you? Okay. And then he's like, no, I just saw you fall, and like picks a leaf out of her hair, and she just melts into a puddle of Elena goo. Again, for what? What did he do? What happened? She like says she likes his ring. He's got this big like clunky ring on his hand, and she's like, oh, I like your ring. And he's like, thank you, it's a family heirloom. And it's that'll be important later, okay? Then he smells her blood, and he has a little freak out. Because she cut her shin or her ankle falling, because she like bit it when she was running through the cemetery. And this is, I hope it's not a controversial take on it, but I love so much of the vampire lore in this show. So much of it is silly and like lame and weird, but I really love the way the vampires change. The veins, they do this thing where it's like their teeth start to change, their eyes change, and then they get these like dark veins that come down from their face. I love that. That is like, it's just spooky enough to be spooky, but it's not like the demented thing that they do with the prosthetics, which I just don't love. Learn later that like Stefan's got some like weird issues with human blood, so it's a good thing that he left, because it could have gone a lot. It could have been a lot worse. Okay, we're gonna go back to the gaggle, Elena's gaggle of friends. Sketchy boy that Jeremy was with, okay, back in school, is sitting with a jock. Cute little blonde jock boy. Okay, I'm going to put them up here. This is Tyler. This is Matt. Love Matt. Want to punch Tyler in the face repeatedly. Both hands with my rings on, okay? Can't stand him. Just, it's on sight with Tyler, okay? The girl Jeremy likes is Vicky, and that's Matt's sister. Caroline has got all the details on Stefan. He's a Gemini. Also is a nice little tidbit that she throws at Bonnie, and that is honestly all I needed to know about him. Gemini men make me want to claw my eyes out. Hard cut again, away from Caroline and Bonnie to Elena's house, where Stefan just shows up uninvited, okay? And he keeps being like, I'm sorry I'm so strange, Elena. I'm sorry, I'm strange. while being ridiculously strange over and over again. It's not like he changes the behavior. It's not like he fixes it to appear more human and normal. He just gets worse. And she's like, how did you know where I live? And he's like, it's a small town. And she just believes him. She's just like, yeah, okay. Girl, who did he ask? Which of your friends does he know? I would be concerned. And we learn that, like, he picked her journal up in the cemetery when she fell, and he gives it back to her, and he, like, talks about his journal, so they both journal, so they're, like, kindred journaling spirits, and that really does it for her. She's, like, very into that. And she invites him to the grill, which is basically, like, the only restaurant in town. It will be a very big focal point location. Okay, a lot goes down in the grill. Oh, I just remembered something. That's for so many seasons in the future, but I hope I remember that I just remembered it here because my heart. Anyway, so the jock, Matt, is sitting with Bonnie, talking about Elena. We learn that they were a couple. Makes sense. Seems to track with what we know about the two of them. Elena comes in with Stefan. Everybody's like, oh my god, Elena's with Stefan. And Matt is like, oh. He's got the, like, I'm protective, but he's very, like, wholesome. He's like the golden retriever of the group. It's funny to me that, like, I'm so irritated by Stefan and I think he's so boring. Whereas Matt is, like, spoiler, a human the whole show, blonde, a jock. Like, he is everything that you would think would be, like, generic and boring, but I love him. He's so sweet. He's so sweet and wholesome. Maybe it's because Stefan's a liar. Learn a little bit about Stefan. He tells us that his parents are dead. Another win for Elena. In the, like, connection column, they journal, their parents are dead. What more could she want from him? Then he's got a sibling, a little mysterious. He doesn't talk to his sibling. Who could this sibling be? I don't know. His uncle Zach confronts him about the murders, and he's like, you did this. Why did you come home, Stefan? You don't belong here, and we both know it. And Stefan's like, well, then where do I belong? Not here. We see in his journal a picture of Elena, but she's got, like, a crown and, like, a big fancy necklace and 1800s-esque neckline of a dress. You know, it's, like, off the shoulder and ruffly. And so it's not Elena, but who is it? We don't know. So they're at the falls, and Stefan has, like, super bat hearing, you know, because he's a vampire. He hears the girls, like, discussing him, and he's, like, super giddy about it. Bonnie touches Elena, and she has this, like, weird moment of terror where she's just like, oh, like, panic. And Elena's like, what just happened to you? And she's like, I don't know. I saw crows and, like, a fog and a man. Maybe she is a psychic. We don't know. Elena moves on from it really quickly. So does Bonnie. Bonnie, like, shakes it off. She's like, oh, that was weird. Jeremy catches Tyler with Vicky, and he's, like, super jealous. Elena and Stefan bond over their shared trauma and mysterious sadness. Then Stefan is like, I think they're touching in this moment, but there's like looking into her eyes, and he's like, you won't be sad forever, Elena. So we cut to Vicky in the woods with Tyler. They're getting their makeout on, and she's like, no, Tyler, I'm not having sex with you against a tree. And Tyler's like, what if I make you have sex with me against the tree? And it verges very quickly into, like, SA territory. Not like a full Chuck Bass moment, but we're virgin on it. Gives me the ick. I never really recovered from, like, season 1 Tyler. Stefan has just told Elena that he needs to go get a drink, and now Vicky's getting attacked in the woods. I'm not saying it, but we're all thinking it. Matt and Elena have a little chat about Matt still loving her and planning to wait for her. And then Stefan shows up and sees them together. Caroline, like, gets up on Stefan in this moment that he's just, like, seen Matt and Elena, and he's like, oh, I've got to go. Caroline, like, jumps him, and she's just, like, so pushy. He's just not into it. And I will say this about Stefan. As much as he's like, I have issues with all of this about him, I love that with Caroline, he's like, no, I don't like you. I don't see myself liking you. You and me, it's not going to work. And it is better than leading her on, which a lot of people do to her. So I appreciate that a lot about him, that just in that moment, he's like, no, not going to happen. So Elena follows drunk Jeremy. He's, like, stumbling off into the woods, and she goes after him and is like, Jeremy, no. And then they find Vicky. hit my goldfish. They find Vicky in the woods. I'm pretty sure Jeremy like steps on her or like almost steps on her, but very much her throat is not there all the way. Okay, something has clearly happened and she's alive, but it's really not good. So Stefan, what did you do, you naughty, naughty vampire boy? Was it not Stefan? Who was it if not Stefan? Could it be whoever killed the couple in the first opening minutes? He rushes home. He finds his window open and another crow in his room waiting for him. So he's looking at the crow and then he turns. This is my favorite part. And he says, Damon. And then Damon is standing in the window and he's like, hello, brother. It's my favorite line. It will come back. Don't worry. He'll say it again because it's too iconic for him not to say it again. So if it wasn't clear from my giddy reaction, I am a team Damon girly. I love him. I love him so much. And there's things he does that are awful, terrible, big, bad. But what I love about Damon is that he's not a liar. He's not a liar. He tells us up front with everybody. He's like, I am the bad guy. I am the vampire. I am the killer. It's the skin of a killer, Bella. They have wonderful banter. They're in the room where Damon is, he says he's like controlling the birds and he's like, wait till you see what I can do with the fog. Again, so now we know that like the fog that rolled in on Elena in the cemetery was Damon, so he was probably the man in Bonnie's like vision thing. But this is not a power that sticks around. The crow controlling and the fog wielding just leave and we don't have them anymore. Damon also seems to like know about Elena. He's the one that's been attacking all the people. It all comes out in this little confrontation. Stefan's like very anxious that he's back. And then Damon brings up this mysterious person named Catherine. And he's like, Elena looks a lot like Catherine, doesn't she? Like, don't they look so much alike? Then he teases him about like only feeding off animals. So I think it's safe to assume that like that picture that we saw in Stefan's book of the girl that like looked like Elena is Catherine, whoever she is, we don't know yet. And then Stefan feeds on animals. So that means that everybody that's died, it's been Damon all along. So he attacked Vicky. Stefan has like a horrible reaction. He like, they jump out the window. They fall out the window together. And then we learn that like Damon promised Stefan, he's so dramatic, okay? He's so dramatic. So this like tracks for him. But he's like, I promised you an eternity of misery, didn't I, brother? And he's also threatened to like take Stefan's ring. And then like he just grabs Stefan by the throat and just flings him like across the yard. Just, I'm thinking it too, y'all. He's clearly the older brother. Then we cut to Caroline and Bonnie in the grill talking about how sad Caroline is that Stefan doesn't want her. And I love moments like this for Caroline because at least she's self-aware. Like she kind of says like, I know I'm blunt. I know I'm annoying. I know I'm abrasive. She's so painfully insecure. And I love her. Like she has so much going for her and yet she's not Elena. Therefore she's not good enough. And Bonnie says to her like, it's not a competition. And she's like, yes, it is. And it hurts me every time because like that's really how Caroline feels. She feels like Elena gets everything and like doesn't try, which girl, she's the protagonist. Of course she does, but she's a very self-aware secondary character. So she sees it and she's upset. In the hospital, Vicky's alive. Matt's with her. Love those two. They're such cute siblings, okay? Neither of them looks like a high school student, but they are precious college age siblings. She like wakes up and tells him that a vampire attacked her in the woods. And Matt is like, huh? What? In Mystic Falls? No. Final shot is Elena admitting to her journal that she can't fake her way through all her pain. So to recap, Elena started by planning to fake everything, getting mad at her friends for not noticing she was faking it, bonding with Stefan over being sad, and now saying, I can't pretend anymore. It's been a long first episode, okay? Back at the house, Stefan has come over again, because of course he has, and Elena's like, why don't you come inside? Mistake number 1. Ugh. And that's the end of episode 1. Okay, so episode 2 opens, and now that we know that Damon is running around killing people, you can just start to assume that anybody you see in the beginning of the episode is going to die. Elena wakes up on day 2 and she's feeling different. She's feeling super elated and happy. Jeremy's visiting Vicky in the hospital before school. She's okay, but like very tired, needs a long nap. She lost like almost all of her blood and almost died. In history, Stefan and Elena, much like day before when they didn't know each other, now it's been a whole day and now they're really making eyes, okay? If there's one thing the people in Mystic Falls love, it's like an event. Founders Day, remember and stay. It's a moment, okay? So they're having a whole like celebration over this comet flying over town. So then Bonnie tells us some more exposition on the Bennett family, and she's like, yeah, my grandma thinks we're witches, descendant from Salem. That's crazy though. There's no way that's true. Jeremy confronts Tyler, who is smooching up on another girl, even though Vicky, who he was just with the night before, is like dying in the hospital. Stefan listens in on Matt, telling Elena that Vicky thinks that a vampire attacked her in the woods. And he's like, yikes. And then Matt asks if she's into Stefan, and she absolutely is. The history teacher is again out here with just like wild things. He's talking to Jenna, who's come in for like a little talk about Jeremy and Elena inadvertently. And he's like, look, their parents died 4 whole months ago. And you're an idiot child who shouldn't be in charge of them. He's a lot, okay? He's like worse than Coach from, whatchamacallit, Teen Wolf. Okay, Vicky is up and about in the hospital room. She's like staring off into the distance. And then when they touch her, she starts screaming. Stefan sneaks into the hospital and uses his like eye contact power, which we're going to learn is called compulsion. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is. He does that on her to make her think that an animal attacked her. Matt sees him. Matt knows he's there. We're going back to Bonnie. Another little Bennett crumb. This is like multiple scenes, by the way. I'm going over this with you in as it happens. Okay, so Bonnie has already told us that her grandma thinks she's a witch. The family's witches. And now she's telling us that grandma thinks that the comet is a sign of impending doom. Thank you, Grams. He also says that like a lot of people died the last time, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, Bonnie. People are dying in town. I don't know. There's missing people, okay? All of the things that Damon's been doing have been on the news. We just don't know that they're all dead yet. So Jenna, who's had the scolding by the teacher, is now home, and she tries to have like a heart-to-heart with Jeremy. And again, she's a grad school student, so she's like mid-20s. It does not work on Jeremy. He's like, yeah, okay, you were cool once, you're not anymore, and you don't understand my trauma, even though like her sister died. Vicky wakes up. She no longer remembers that it was a vampire. She's like, no, Matt, it was an animal. She actually calls Matt Matty quite a lot. She's like, no, it was an animal. And he's like, okay. Elena goes over to the Salvatore house. It's beautiful. I love the Salvatore house. We've seen a couple little snippets of it from like Stefan wandering about, but it's gorgeous. And she runs into Damon instead of Stefan, and he gives her a tour, so we get to see even more of it. So Damon introduces himself, brings her inside. He also brings up Catherine because he's a freaking little butthead. He's like, oh, did Stefan not mention her? Yeah, they had a really bad breakup, and it really messed him up for a while there. But now he has you. And he's like completely fine. So Stefan's like so upset that Damon even like looked at her, let alone like they were in the house together. And he like doesn't talk. Elena's like, Stefan, everything's fine. And he's just like glaring at Damon, and it's so weird. And she's like, okay, I'll come back later. And he's like, yeah, you do that. Like, it's so weird. Jenna throws an apple at Jeremy on the staircase. It's very funny. She like grabs an apple from the kitchen, chucks it at him. He's like, ow, why did you throw an apple at me? And she's like, you will listen to me. I'm in charge. And he's like, sure you are. So Uncle Zach at the Salvatore house is like super worried about Vicky talking, and Stefan admits that he might not have done the mind control perfectly. Zach also in the scene calls Stefan Uncle Stefan, which I think is so funny because Zach is like a grown man, like genuinely a grown man, and he's like, Uncle Stefan, what do we do? Jeremy gives Vicky drugs at the grill because he's a little drug dealer, and Tyler sees it happen, and he puts his moves on Vicky again. And then the boys, like Tyler and Jeremy, are just like, they have their own little alpha moment over Vicky, and I hate those. I hate when the boys are just like, I'm a bigger man than you. At the comet thing, you know, the festival I told you guys about, Matt like lights Elena's comet candle, but then Elena lights Stefan. And that's just like a perfect little cyclical love triangle moment right there. Love it. Elena is really kind of upset and like hurt that Stefan didn't tell her about his brother being in town, the mysterious brother that he said he doesn't talk to being in town. And then also Catherine, his ex, who, according to Damon, like really messed him up. She's this whole speech where she's like, we met and we talked and it was epic. And then we woke up the next day and the sun came up. At the grill, Vicky confronts Damon because Stefan's mind control powers did not work. As he was afraid of, they did not work. So she confronts Damon and she's like, I know it was you. And he's like, that's unfortunate. And then he grabs her from the bathroom and attacks her again because he doesn't know how to handle his problems with anything but violence. At least he's consistent. Then Matt has this whole I'll always look out for Elena moment with Stefan. I say that I don't like the boys being protective of the girls. It gets kind of old. I don't mind when Matt does it because, like I've said, Matt has like such a genuine, like kind, loving energy radiating from him that it does not come off as like, I'll do anything for Elena because I own her and I'm in charge and I'm the best. It comes off as like, I'll do anything for Elena because I love Elena and like I'm choosing to do that because I want to, not she needs me to or she's expecting me to. It's just like genuine from him. He also tells Stefan, like, I saw you at the hospital. Don't touch my sister. On the roof, cut to the roof, Damon is just like yo-yo toying with Vicky. Don't love this aspect of him in the beginning. He almost throws her off the roof and then he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's like a very traumatic scene where like she relives what happened to her. She's very upset. Now she's with her killer again. Stefan is there and he like reopens the wound on Vicky's neck and like almost convinces Stefan to feed off her again. And Stefan's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And he like fights against it. He says something really emo and sad, which is like, I don't care if, you know, I snap and, you know, they find out about you because then they'll kill you and I'll finally be rid of you. And it's like, okay, little brother, calm down. Damon like then fixes the compulsion and she forgets everything. And she's suddenly like, why am I on the roof? I'm so messed up on these drugs I bought from Jeremy. Oh no, sorry guys. They have a whole thing where Stefan's like, why did you come home, Damon? And Damon's like, that's for me to know and for you to ... Then Bonnie touches Stefan in the grill and she has another one of those like terror moments, like how she looked at Elena and she's like, what happened to you? Which is so funny to me because like so much. Girl, you have no idea. Jenna has a meltdown about not being her sister, you know, Elena and Jeremy's dead mom. And she like goes through Jeremy's room and like steals all of his drug stuff. She's like, no more. He's done. We're done with this. And she like cracks down on it. Caroline runs into Damon on her way home and he chases her a little bit because he's super dramatic. So he like makes her think somebody's chasing her and he like sneaks up on her and then he's in front of her and he's like, hello. And she's like, oh, it's you. And he's like, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Yes, he did, girl. Yes, he did. He likes to play with his food and you are his next meal. Cut away from that. We go back to Elena. She goes to Stefan. They have known each other for like 24, less than 48 hours, well under 48 hours at this point. And Gravity is playing in the background. Okay, the crickets are so loud in this moment outside the house. They have a moment talking about being afraid of happiness and end up kissing while the music swells. Then we cut to Damon. And he is hooking up with Caroline. And now I will say it right now, right here. I don't love it, okay? I don't love it. Caroline Forbes is a 16-year-old child. And I don't like it. So, episode 3 opens with a shot of poor Caroline waking up in bed, which thankfully she's not dead, you know, because the last thing we saw, she was getting chomped on by Damon. She wakes up in bed and she's clearly terrified. She's got a huge bite wound on her neck and she's like, oh my God, she's so scared. Damon is like feigning sleep in the bed beside her because he's awful. She like gets up, she sneaks out of her room and he's just like, going somewhere? Good morning. And she's like, please don't hurt me. And he's like, and he tries to like I think he's like attempting to like re-seduce her, but he didn't take away any of the scary he bit her memories. So she's just afraid of him. And so she freaks out and he's like, this could have gone a different way. And then he like attacks her again. And I'm like, homie, what other way was it gonna go? His reaction there and the way he talks, when you're just face valuing it, it's gross and like it is, but there's a part of his character that we learn about later that to me I'm like I almost understand why he acts that way. You're just gonna have to trust me on this, okay? We're gonna come back to it. It seems insignificant. We're gonna come back to it. At school, Bonnie is suddenly like, Elena, I don't want you to date Stefan, even though this whole time Bonnie's been like, date Stefan. Who cares about Matt? New year, new you, and like wants her to be with Stefan. Now she's like, don't date Stefan. I don't want you to date Stefan. I changed my mind. And so Elena's rightfully like, why did you change your mind? And Bonnie has to tell her that it's because she touched him and got a bad feeling. Vicky says that now Jeremy isn't sleeping with her, so now that they're not hooking up, they can just be friends and go to a concert together. And he's like, no. And then he kind of gets all moody 15-year-old and he's like, were you only with me for the drugs? Is that all it was? And she's like, Tyler tries to hit Stefan for daring to take Elena away from Matt with a football. Tyler's like, watch this. And he throws the football and Stefan's like, huh, and like catches it from behind and then throws it back. And Tyler like almost falls down. He like almost takes Tyler's arm off. And then the whole quad is like, oh, Stefan can throw a ball. Wow. A history teacher in class tries to embarrass Stefan by forcing him to tell the class years, like different years of like specific dates, because Stefan's good with dates and the teacher's a jerk. Stefan gets all of them. And he gets to one and he's like, it was from this to this. And the teacher's like, wrong. It ended in this year. And Stefan's like, excuse me, but no, I lived it. You're wrong. They look it up. The teacher was wrong. It's really bad. The teacher is also the football coach. You guys remember a few minutes ago when I said that he wasn't as bad as the coach from Teen Wolf? My bad. I forgot that he is in fact also a coach. Elena shows up at cheerleading practice and Bonnie's like, oh my God. And Elena's like, yeah, I can't be sad girl forever. So now I'm back on the cheerleading team, guys. Caroline shows up in Damon's car with like a little scarf tied around her neck. This is a ball of clay, by the way. I realize I'm just swinging this thing around. Caroline shows up with a scarf, and the girls are like, they don't care that it's summer, and she's wearing a scarf, like a little silk scarf on her neck. I don't know. She like rolls up, and she's like, I got the other brother. I hope you don't mind. And Elena's like, ew. So Elena tries to navigate cheerleading. She's not very good at it anymore. It's been a while. While she's doing that, Stefan is joining the football team. He is very good at it, even though it's been a while. He's a vampire, so, you know, he's great. He goes home, and Damon is there, like, reading his diary because he's a big brother, and that's what big brothers do. They have this moment where Stefan's like, doesn't have to be this way. You're the worst. Like, why are you the worst? And Damon's like, you know what? You're right. I've changed my mind. I want to be a good vampire. I want to learn how to live with the humans and be kind. And then he starts laughing evilly, and Stefan's like, you're... At dinner, Elena is throwing like a little get together for Bonnie and Stefan so that they can become friends, because Bonnie's her best friend and Caroline's just like secondary, and then Stefan's now her boyfriend, so she's like, you guys have to get along. Bonnie's like not having it. She's like, I don't want to talk to him. I don't like him. Stefan gives me the ick, which girl same. Doorbell rings. It's Caroline and Damon, and Stefan's like, oh my God, Damon can't stay. Damon's not he can't stay. Elena, he can't stay. And Elena's like, what are you talking about? Of course he can. Damon, come on in. Which is all he needs to come into the house. That's one of my favorite things that they do as far as like how they take vampire lore and work with it. There's a couple different instances where having to be invited in creates like some really funny situations. I'm thinking of a certain someone just throwing pieces of the fence through the windows. They keep talking about how Elena used to be like fun, you know, before her parents died 4 months ago. And then Damon is like, oh, don't worry. Stefan and I watched Everybody We Love die. And Stefan's like, maybe right now is not the time to talk about that. And Damon's like, you're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring her up. Meaning Catherine, because he's a snake. Damon like gets in with Elena in the kitchen and like flirts with her a little bit and gets a little close. He tells her how I love this scene. I'm just thinking about the looks on his face. I love the scenes where Damon is like his like quote unquote true self. That's why he's one of my favorite characters, okay? Because there's like a duality to him where there's like fake Damon that's like kind of crazy and like office rocker and you don't know what he's gonna say. And then there's like Damon that's like sweet, sensitive, probably a Pisces boy, okay? Catherine died in a fire. It was very traumatizing. It sucked. And then he's like, she was beautiful and she could be cruel, but she was really funny, and just going on about her for a second. And Elena's like, cool, so which one of you dated her first? And Damon's like, Now we know that Catherine died in a fire. We don't really know how, but she died in a fire. And then both Damon and Stefan dated her. And we know the boys are vampires, so I think it's pretty safe to assume that if she's in the 1800s garb, like they're back from that time too, so maybe they all knew each other in that time. That's all we know about Catherine for now. Elena looks him in the eyeballs and is like, I'm sorry about Catherine. And boy, like short circuits. You can see like the little like loading symbol on his brain because he's just like, what? And she's like, you lost her too. I'm sorry. And he just, the emotions. And then Stefan in the other room. So Damon and Elena are having this moment. In the other room, Caroline and Stefan are having a moment. And he's like, take your scarf off, Caroline. Can I see your scarf? Take it off. And she's like, no, I can't. And he's like, give me your scarf, Caroline. And she's like, I can't. And he's like, why not? Are you okay? And she's like, all I know is I can't take my scarf off. She leaves. And Stefan's like, they are not puppets, you snake. Stop puppeteering the humans. And Damon's like, they are puppets. I'm a vampire. I'm in charge. Top of the food chain, baby. And Stefan's like, no. And Damon's like, yes, that's what's normal to me. I'm a monster. There's like a hard cut from the boys like arguing in the living room to like post dinner. Stefan and Elena are like making out in their room, in her room at the house, and he like goes to take his shirt off, and then when he pulls his shirt off over his head, jump scare, it's Damon. Stefan at school gives Elena a necklace that's like this really pretty old locket. I like it. She asks him if it's got rose in it. She's like, what's that smell? And he's like, it's an herb. Doesn't tell her what kind of herb it is. I would want to know what I'm wearing around my neck, but whatever. Tyler gets in a fight with Jeremy over Vicky, which is gross. Tyler, he's beating the crap out of Jeremy. It's really bad. Jeremy breaks a bottle, goes to swing at Tyler, and cuts Stefan in the hand. Elena sees this and is like, oh my god, your hand. It heals, and she's like, no, I saw your hand. Your hand was cut. And he's like, no, girl, my hand was not cut. And she's like, yes, it was. And he's like, this isn't my blood. So then Elena, hightails it over to Bonnie, and she's like, what's going on with Stefan? I need you to tell me what that feeling was. Is he a monster? And Bonnie's like, yeah, girl, maybe. He's cold, and he feels like death. It's unclear, but she's at her car. Damon, confronts her like a little creep, and he's basically, flirting with her and, kind of being funky. And I love that she calls him out because he starts shit-talking on Caroline. And Elena's like, don't talk about her like that. She's one of my oldest friends, and that counts for something to me. And Damon's like, noted, you're feisty. And then, he flirts a little bit more, and she's like, you are such a mess. You keep picking on me. Everything you say has an ulterior motive. I don't trust you. I don't like you. I don't trust you. Which I think it's so funny, again, that at least her danger radar comes off on this, where, she sees what he's doing, and she's not about it. But then Damon is like, actually, I think you're lying. You do like me. You do want me. You do want to kiss me. And she's like, ugh, and slaps him in the face. And then she follows it up by, slapping him. And she's like, leave me alone. Let's get one thing straight. I am not Catherine. So Matt apologizes to Stefan. And he's like, I'm sorry I was a jerk. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't cool. We're really lucky to have you on the team, and I'm glad you're here. Matt Donovan, everybody. I love him. And before Stefan can get into the locker room with Matt, Damon shows up, and he's like, you put Vervain in Elena's necklace? You sneaky, sneaky rat. And Stefan's like, yeah, I did, because you can't puppeteer Elena. You suck. And Damon's like, whatever. I'll just seduce her the old-fashioned way. Or I could just eat her. And Stefan's like, no, sir, you will not. And I know you will not, because you're human, and you're kind, and there's good in you. Because if you wanted to kill Elena, you would have done it by now. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it by now. Instead, you just torment me because you're mad that Catherine died and you're hurt about it because you loved her, and you're still mad at me because you still love her. And Damon just like stares at him while he's doing this, and it's a whole thing. And Stefan's like, so that's the truth. And then the coach shows up, and the coach is like, Stefan, get on the court. And Damon's like, I'm a human. I have humanity. Okay. And then just straight up eats the coach. Just chows down. And then when the coach falls dramatically at his feet, he's like, anybody, anywhere, anytime. And Stefan's like, Matt in the locker room that Stefan never made it to confronts Tyler, and it good for him, but it just their friendship's going to go back and forth because, like I said, Tyler's going to have a redemption arc that we're all supposed to root for him for. And then he stumbles outside and finds the coach. So now Matt has had 2 dead bodies be thrown at him close, in close contact. Vicky finds Jeremy, and she's like, it wasn't about the drugs. And then she just walks away. Like, that is straight up the entire scene. Then Stefan is back at home, and he journals about how awful it is and how terrible it is that Damon's back in town. And Damon is like the worst thing ever. He's a monster who has to be stopped. It cuts to Damon lovingly standing over Elena while she sleeps, just like brushing the hair from her face with like the softest expression on his little face. Okay, so episode 4 opens with Elena waking up from a bad dream about Damon, where she thinks somebody's in the house with her, and she hears on the news in the living room that there's been another animal attack, and the most recent victim is Elena Gilbert. And then Damon's in the house and he attacks her, and then Stefan wakes up, and the whole time it was Stefan's dream. We find out that Damon was the one controlling the dream. So much like when he like self-inserted himself into her little dream about Stefan last episode, now he's doing it again with Stefan. It's another of like the vampire tricks. Later on in like the spin-offs, they call it like a head dive. Damon says, I've covered up the attacks. You don't have to worry about it anymore. They're going to think it was a big mountain lion. And Stefan's like, why would you do that? And Damon's like, because I need to be in town, and it's like in my best interest if they're not looking for me. And Stefan's like, okay. News anchor. He's now a character. His name's Logan Fell. It's kind of sleazy. I don't like him. He was on the screen telling Elena in her dream, that was Stefan's dream, that Elena was dead. And then now he's on the screen again, and Aunt Jenna is like, I hate this guy. This guy's awful. This guy's why I left town. Is that going to be relevant later? Yeah, probably. We start to learn in this opening like family mourning sequence that there's like definitely some like history with the town, like the big families of the town. The Gilberts, which is Elena and Jeremy's family, being one of them. Most of our gaggle is part of this like big name, the founders of the town. They're going to donate some family heirlooms to like a big party. Yes, we just had a comet party a few days ago. Now we're having another party, okay?
Tree lighting day, Miss Mystic Falls.
They love to party in Mystic Falls. Damon and Caroline are also going to go to this party. We get some lore in this moment because Damon's like moodily reading Twilight. But basically the ring that he and Stefan wear, they're daylight rings. They keep them from burning in the daylight because they don't sparkle in the sun. They catch on fire like a little barbecue and die. He also tells Caroline he's going to kill her. Tyler is having dinner in town at the grill, of course, with his family, and Vicky works at the grill, of course, and he's really weird with her. She's like, hi, guys, here's your check, everything good? And Tyler's like, yeah, we're fine, don't look at me, which is so obvious, and his mom immediately picks up on it. His dad's kind of an idiot, so his dad is just like, oh, sweetheart, you're just the sweetest, thank you for the bill, like, I'll get it right to you. And his mom is just like, this trashy girl likes my son. We also learn in that scene that Tyler's dad is the mayor. So remember what I said about the founders being important? The Lockwoods are like politically in charge. Zach admits that he's been growing vervain secretly because even though the Salvatores that are humans are related to the vampires, they're related to the vampires and they're scared of them. So they've been secretly growing vervain in the family home for years. And he has vervain, so they can give the vervain to Damon, weaken him, and then Stefan can stab him in the heart. Bonnie tells Elena that Caroline told her that what happened with Catherine and Damon and Stefan is basically Catherine and Damon were dating. They were in love. Stefan was jealous. So Stefan manipulated Catherine until she broke up with Damon. And Bonnie's like, isn't that terrible? And Elena's like, that sounds like Damon's version of events. So, of course, he's going to make it sound that way, and it's none of my business. And Bonnie's like, girl, it's your business if your boyfriend is a sneaky, sneaky liar, manipulative little liar. And she's valid for that because he is a sneaky, sneaky liar. Stefan tries to vervain Damon by, like, putting it in his scotch, and Damon is so cool, and he, like, switches the switched drinks, so then Stefan drinks it, and Stefan's like, ugh. And Damon's like, it's a nice try, though, you idiot. And then Zach is like, oh, no, it didn't work. And Stefan's like, it wasn't supposed to work. That was my plan all along. I'm hoping to get him the second time. Anyway, at the party, the Founders Day party, which is at the Lockwood's house, Vicky shows up, and Tyler leaves the little greeting line and goes and gets her. And he's like, come on, this line is so long. Let's go to the back of the house. And she's like, what? And his mom is like, I see the trash. I see the trash with my son. Caroline shows up with Damon, and her mom is the sheriff. So the sheriff is just like, your boyfriend's a little old for you, don't you think? And Caroline's like, oh, please. Like, you would not approve no matter what. And there's definitely, like, some tension. Like, Caroline is so mean to her mother. Aunt Jenna runs into Logan, you know, the anchor man that has now become, we're circling back to him. He's relevant, okay? He's super excited to see her, and she's very much just like, get away from me, I hate you. Elena finds a list of the founding family's names, and she finds Damon's name, and then she finds Stefan's name, and she's like, what is this? This is suspicious. And Stefan's like, and Damon steps in because Stefan never has lies planned. To be as much of a liar and a sneaky, sneaky boy as he is, he's never prepared. Whereas Damon is just like, I have this whole backstory sprinkled throughout my life, and I'm ready at a drop of a hat to make something up. So he shows up in the room, and he's like, yes, the original Salvatore brothers. Then Damon apologizes for trying to kiss Elena, and he makes this joke about how his therapist tells him that he's just acting out because he's mad at Stefan. Same. Damon tells Elena this lovely little story about how there used to be, like, way back, most of the town was like Confederates, but there was like a group of Union sympathizers, and they locked these Union sympathizers into a church, and then they burned the church down. And Damon and Stefan, the OG Damon and Stefan, loved a girl that was in the church, and they tried to get her out of the church, and when they tried to get her out of the church, they got shot and they died. Yes, he did just tell her the truth and make it sound like it wasn't about him and Stefan. But it is. It's so bold of him because he has already told her that Catherine died in a fire, and that he and Stefan loved Catherine, and now he's like, yeah, the OG Damon and Stefan, they also loved a woman, and she died in a fire too. So Vicky is so done with Tyler. She's like, why don't we go inside? Why don't we go dance? And he's like, no, I don't want to look at my house. My house is old and stuffy and boring. I just want to sit in the backyard away from everyone on a bench with you for no reason other than I want to. And she's like, great, you're hiding me and I hate you and I'm leaving. They get into a little tiff, and his mom shows up, and she's like, oh my God, Tyler, don't be mean to Vicky. And then she's like, Vicky, sweetie, I'm so sorry. He gets that from his dad. Don't worry about it. And Vicky's like, it's okay, Mrs. Lockwood. I'm just leaving. And so she leaves. The second she walks away, his mom is like, that's what happens when you bring the trash into the party. Bonnie quite literally lights a candle on fire with her mind. That scene ends, more things happen. She does it again with more candles. 2 times she lights candles on fire with her mind. That's my favorite witch power. Whatever Logan and Jenna have going on, I don't like, because it becomes pretty obvious that he cheated on her, and then he's still trying to, like, weasel his way back into her good graces, and I just don't like it. He, like, brings up her sister and how, like, he went to the funeral and he's so sorry. And by the end of the episode, she agrees to go to dinner with him. And I'm like, girl, you can do better than Logan Fell. You left him for a reason. Elena gets in a little fight with Stefan because now Damon has told her things, and she feels like Damon's, like, letting her in to the past of the boys, right? And Stefan just refuses. So she's learning things about Stefan from Damon, and she doesn't like that. She wants him to tell her the truth. And he gets really aggressive for the first time, And he's like, no, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to be able to tell you things. My past is my past, and I don't want to talk to you about it. So they get in a whole little fight. Okay. Damon steals a crystal that he says he left behind in the Lockwood house. So it's not really stealing because he left it there. Caroline's very confused by this. She just goes along with it. Elena ends up in the bathroom with Caroline at the same time and sees the bites on Caroline's neck, and it's like fresh bloody blood on her neck. And she's like, oh, what the fuck is this? And Caroline's like, nothing. And Elena's like, oh, it's something, girl. What's going on? So Elena goes to Damon, and she's like, don't touch Caroline. So now Damon knows that Caroline told her, which is not good for Caroline. And then Elena goes to Stefan and is like, something's happening. Like, Damon is hurting Caroline. I don't understand. What's going on? And Stefan is not a good liar. He's like, yeah, something is going on. I know exactly what it is, but I can't tell you. And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm taking care of it. And she's like, bro, we need to go to the police. And he's like, no. And then he just runs off to go because we see Damon like dragging Caroline out from the party. So Stefan just runs off. He's like, I'm sorry, Elena, I'll be back. Hard cut to the Gilbert household. Vicky goes to Jeremy and is like, can I make one more bad decision for the day? I have 17 more minutes. And she kisses him. Damon bites Caroline and is definitely like about to kill her. That's like his plan in that moment, is to go ahead and be done with Caroline Forbes. But if you'll recall, Stefan had her drink the champagne to break the compulsion, which means her blood is just swimming with vervain juice, just swimming in it. So Damon like pulls off of her and is like, oh, what the heck? What is this? And then like passes out. So yeah, Stefan sneaks up. He gets Damon. He takes him away. Elena ends up finding Caroline and is like, what's going on with you? Are you okay? Caroline's not okay. She like can't. This is the saddest thing with the compulsion for me. It's the same thing with Vicky from before. She can't remember why she's upset and scared and like something's wrong, but she knows something's wrong. So she's like having a panic attack. She can't figure out why she's having a panic attack, which just makes it worse. Then we get our final scene of the episode. This is a delicious plot twist, okay? Something I don't think I've mentioned up to this point is that the heirlooms that Elena was donating to the Founders Day stuff, there's a watch that Tyler's mom called her and was like, I've lost the watch. Like, where's the watch? It's not with the other stuff. Elena finds it with Jeremy. And Jeremy's like, Dad was supposed to give me this and he didn't because he died. And now you just want to give it to the other people. And so Elena ends up letting him keep it because she feels bad. So she ends up telling Mrs. Lockwood, Tyler's mom, she ends up telling her, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I can't find it. I guess it's still with my parents' stuff. Like, my bad. I'm sorry. And Mrs. Lockwood's like, okay, no problem. Well, now we get to a scene where Mrs. Lockwood, Mr. Lockwood, Caroline's mom, and Logan freaking Fell are in a room together. And they're like, did you find the watch? And Mrs. Lockwood's like, no, I didn't. She says she doesn't know where it is. And they're all like, mm. And Caroline's mom's like, we have to find it. We need it. And Logan's like, they're back. They're back in town. They know about the vampires, people. Could this be why Stefan said before that the Salvatores are no longer invited to Founders Day? Possibly. All right. We're going to have to find out in episode 5. So Stefan's got Damon locked up. We open with that. Damon's like super sick, very unwell. Stefan basically tells him that his evil little brother plan is to lock Damon up until he desiccates, which is like vampire mummification. So they're alive and they can think and like hear and feel, but they can't do anything. So he says he's going to do that. And then he's going to lock Damon in the crypt for 50 years and come back and reevaluate then. Not good. Elena catches Vicky in the bathroom because if you'll remember, Vicky and Jeremy are together now. So Elena catches them. Jenna is like definitely into Logan now. So her and Elena are like talking boys. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm going to go to dinner with him and torment him a little. And then maybe we'll get back together. Like, Jenna, no. Meanwhile, Elena is like, well, Stefan's not even here. He's gone. He's dealing with stuff. And she does this, like, really funny impression of him. So, like, don't get mad at me for doing the, like, Elena, voice. Because that's how she does his voice, too, okay? That's what the boy sounds like. Caroline tells Bonnie that she doesn't really remember what happened at the party with Damon. Maybe he bit her. Maybe she let him bite her. Who's to say? Bonnie tries to light a candle on fire with her mind again and can't do it. Stefan tells Caroline that Damon left. and he's not coming back. Caroline gets really upset about this, and Elena's like, girl, this is a good thing. And Caroline's like, yeah, I know, but she's like clearly very distraught. Poor Zach is left at home to watch Damon. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, but he can hear Damon like dying in the basement, so he goes down to like look at him. Basically, Zach's been drinking vervain, so like his blood is poisonous, so Damon like can't kill him for that reason. But when Zach goes to leave, Damon like grabs him by the throat and is like, open the door, Zach. And Zach's like, no. And then Stefan shows up and saves the day and like throws Damon down on the ground. And Damon's like, oh. He's at the grill after school. Matt and Elena bond over pool. And I love this scene. I love any of the times where Matt and Elena get to interact once they stop dwelling on like the romantic past and just focus on the fact that they've been friends literally forever. They talk about Stefan and it's like not awkward, and Matt's just like, I think he's a good guy. I think you should give him another chance. And he means it. He's like, just talk to him. So then Stefan shows up and Elena's like, okay, I will talk to him. And then ruined because this old man like wanders over and he's like, I know you. And Stefan's like, no, sir, you do not. And he's like, yes, I do. You're Stefan Salvatore. And he's like, no, sir, I am not. But he is, and the guy does know him, and it's very obvious. And Elena is like, what the heck was that? And Stefan's like, absolutely nothing. And she's like, oh, nothing? Okay, Stefan. And then she finally leaves because her BS meter is full and she knows he's a stinky liar. So she gets out while she can. Logan and Sheriff Forbes are also in the grill, and they start talking about how they're going to find the vampire easy peasy lemon squeezy because vampires can't come out during the daytime. So whoever the vampire is the person in town that's only coming out at night. They are incorrect, but they don't know that yet. Now we know they don't know about the daylight rings, okay? So they do not suspect Stefan and Damon at all, which is good. It's going to come in handy later. Jeremy checks up on Elena, who's like pouting after her fight with Stefan at the grill. And he says, like, well, why don't you go get something to eat? And then when she goes downstairs, Stefan is in her kitchen. And he pitches it as this, like, charming, by the way, I'm from Italy. Did you know I'm Italian? And he says all the words and the accent. And it's annoying. He starts talking about Catherine and about how, like, yes, he and Damon both loved her, but it's complicated and he regrets how he treated them. And her death, like, affected him so much, but, you know, she was as selfish as she was beautiful, so she wasn't perfect, and the relationship wasn't perfect, and everyone made mistakes, and then she died. He also says that he likes Seinfeld and Kanye. We should talk about this now, you and I. If you have not seen the Vampire Diaries, don't get attached. Don't get attached to anyone. No one is safe. No relationship is safe. No plot device is safe, okay? Anything and anyone can be taken out and or changed at any point in time. So Vicky and Jeremy, so cute last episode, it's over now. Now it's a problem again, okay? Keep up. Elena cuts her hand while they're making dinner because she's a clumsy human girl, and Stefan gets the blood on his finger, and he's like, ugh, and his veins happen, and she sees it in the reflection of the window, and she panics, and he's like, everything's fine, I just have something in my eye, and when he turns around again, he's normal, and she's like, wow, my paranoia is turning into hallucinations. And he's like, it's part of your charm. Okay, it's the weekend now. They're having a car wash. Elena gets stuck in her shirt while she's trying to, like, sexily take it off for Stefan because she's not like other girls. So she's going to get stuck in her Henley. Like, what is she supposed to do? Of course that's going to happen. Bonnie makes a water hose explode on the mean girl whose name is Tiki. Aunt Jenna and Logan meet again and talk about how dinner was nice, and then they also tell us that the last time they were in the high school parking lot, they had sex in a minivan, because we needed to know that. Is vital information. Elena sees the old man who thought he remembered Stefan, and when she talks to him, she's like, why do you think you know Stefan? And he tells her that when he moved to town in June of 1953, he stayed at the Salvatore boarding house, and he didn't know Stefan right away, but the uncle, Joseph Salvatore, died. So not Uncle Zach, Uncle Joseph died. And then the nephew Stefan showed up, and he was like, yeah, but it was Stefan, but it must have just been a relative that looked like him. And she's like, I don't know, man, you seemed pretty sure that it was Stefan. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I recognize his big, chunky, ugly ring and his brother. Vicky takes Jeremy to see her friends in the cemetery, and it goes well at first and then very quickly goes south because Jeremy realizes that she stole the drugs from Elena and brought them to the cemetery and is now going to share them with her friends. And he's like, if Elena finds out we took those, she's going to be so mad at me. You can't have them. That's wrong. And Vicky's like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, yes, it is. And then he storms off. She follows him and she's like, can you calm down? And he's like, why are we here? Why are we always doing drugs? Why are we in the cemetery doing drugs? And she's like, because they're my friends. And he's like, they're waste of space, small town lifers. She's like, that's what I am, Jer. That's what I am. You're better than this, but I'm not. And then she finishes the scene by being like, if I wanted to feel bad about myself, I'd go back to Tyler. Elena asks Logan to help her because he's, the news guy. She's like, can you help me get old records to look up this thing for class? And because he wants to sleep with Jenna, he's like, yeah, absolutely. I can do that for you. Caroline goes to Damon because he's still been calling for her. She goes to him, she finds him, and things are starting to come back to her because the vervain is wearing off / it was in her for so long that it was taking some of the stuff he's done to her away. So she's like, how come I remember some things but I don't remember others? And he's like, because I compelled you, because I'm a vampire, you dumb, dumb girl. Open the door. And she's like, I don't want to. And he's like, open the door or I'm gonna throw rocks at your window. And she starts to, she's fighting it a little bit. She starts to open it, and then Zach shows up and he's like, no, Caroline, get out of the house. And he slams his hand on the door. So she goes flying through the house. Zach is at the basement and Damon gets out and just snaps his neck. Don't get attached. If any of you were attached to Zach, that was on you. Then Damon chases Caroline through the house, and then we see the first time what happens when the daylight rings are off, because Stefan took Damon's daylight ring because he's a genius sometimes when he needs to be. And so Damon catches on fire. Bonnie gets so annoyed at Tiki, the mean girl, that she looks down at the ground and sees this patch of oil water from the car wash and catches it on fire. And then instead of being ooh, this is not good, she goes into a freaky magic trance and can't stop herself, and the oil fire spreads and then catches a car on fire. It's not good, but Stefan stops her, and then she's like, wow, did I do that? And he's like, yeah, girl, I think you did. And she's like, don't tell anyone. And he's like, cool. Elena finds out that Joseph was real. Joseph did die. And while she's watching the news coverage of the front of the Salvatore house, she sees Stefan in the news stuff. She sees him on camera and she's like, that's my freaking boyfriend. And it's Stefan. It's very obviously him. Caroline's mom tries to talk to Caroline because she's clearly distressed and upset. And Caroline just unprompted, her mom is like, is it boy trouble? And remember when I said Caroline's mean to her mom? Caroline is mean to her mother. She doesn't even look at her. She just says, Mom, if I wanted help with boys, I'd go to Dad. He's the only one successfully dating one. So her mom is like, okay, and leaves the room, as she should. Stefan finds the bird, the crow, dead on the floor, and then he finds Zach dead in the basement. And that's really sad. There's a montage in a little while where he's holding Zach, looking down at his dead human body. It's very sad. Bonnie walks her little witchy butt over to her grandma's house. Finally, she's like, knock, knock, knock. The door opens. Older woman is there waiting for her. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And Graham's like, I know. And Graham gives her a hug. Logan goes snooping in Jeremy's room. Jeremy catches him. He's like, what are you doing? And in true cliche fashion, Logan is just like, oh, looking for the bathroom. In my room, bro, you're looking for the watch. You're not fooling anybody, okay? Elena gives us a diary entry where she's basically like, I'm not a believer. People grow old and then they die, and that's the way the world works, okay? And I don't believe in magic, and I don't believe in miracles, and none of that is real. Meanwhile, we're getting flashes of all the red flags that she should have known about from day one, including Matt being like Vicky said, a vampire attacked her in the woods. And back in the cemetery, Vicky and her friends get attacked by Damon. We don't know for sure what happens, but we see Vicky's hand fall off the truck. So we can assume Stefan goes to run after him with a knife or a stake, not a knife. You can't kill a vampire with a stake. It's got to be wood. So he grabs the wooden stake and he's running out the door and he flings it open and Elena's there. And the episode ends with a hard cut to black. But before it goes to black, she's like, what are you? We're back for day 2 of filming. We're on episode 6. It opens with Stefan in the 1800s at the old boarding house, and he's like walking outside to greet this carriage that's just arrived, and none other than Catherine Pierce, the queen. She's so cool. Catherine's like such a good villain. The villains in this show are really elite, and Catherine is one of them. I love her a lot. Okay, so she gets out of the carriage, and immediately her and Stefan are like flirty vibes. They're clearly like smitten with each other, like right off the bat. It's like very, just very into each other. And then in our time, we jump to Stefan and Elena, and she's like, "What are you?" And he's like, you know, or you wouldn't be here. She kind of freaks out. She has a whole moment of like, just tell me what you are. And he's like, everything's gonna change. Are you ready for everything to change? And then he just tells her, he's like, yeah, I'm a vampire, surprise. And she's like, ah, and like runs. And then she runs and he uses his vamp speed to like go from here to like, and it makes this really funny, like, whooshing sound every time they move fast. So he like whooshes in front of her and she's like, oh, how did you do that? And he's just like, Elena, don't be scared of me. Don't be scared, Elena. I'm not going to hurt you. She's obviously terrified and she runs away and gets in the car and leaves. And then he's like upset because now she knows what he is and she's just running around like a silly goose in town freaking out. So she goes home. She's having like full meltdown in her room. And as a viewer, I know I've seen this show multiple times. There are things that I still find really funny and interesting each time. Her window is open and she even like walks towards it almost to be like, I should shut my window. And then she's like, oh, I'm panicking too much. And she like leaves. He comes through the window because of course he does. And then he like corners her against the door to keep her from getting out of the room. But he's very much like, I'm not going to hurt you. I would never hurt you, Elena. I would never hurt you. And she's horrified and so scared. And she's like, if you really don't want to hurt me, leave. And he's like, okay, but you have to promise me you won't tell anybody because like it's really dangerous that you know. And he gets like all broody and intense about it. So she starts saying like, all these people are dead because of you. And he's like, no, 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 no. Nope, actually, I'm a good vampire. I only eat animals. But you know who does eat people? My brother. And he just throws Damon under the bus. He's like, Damon's a monster. He's evil. We hate him. I hate him. Cut to Damon, who was eating Vicky and her friends. He's finished eating her friends, and now he's burning the bodies. And when he goes to burn Vicky's body, she's alive. And he's like, oh, wow, you just don't want to die, do you? And he's like into that. So he takes Vicky with him. Elena and Stefan the next day have a little date where it's like an info dump and Stefan starts like explaining things about like being a vampire, kind of stuff we've already like known, but he like lays it all out for her specifically. So he's like, garlic's a myth, my ring keeps me from dying, blah, blah, blah. I don't eat humans. Most people do. And then he says that there used to be more vampires in Mystic Falls, but something happened. He doesn't tell her what, but he's like, something happened. They're all gone now. It's just Damon and I that still come back. And she's like, that's wild. How did I not know this? And he's like, the founding families, man, they got lots of secrets. So then back at the house, Damon's kidnapped Vicky and she is like dying on the couch and he hasn't done anything to her yet. So this is another one of those things where it's like he realized that she wasn't dead. And instead of just killing her in the moment, he was like, no, I'll just take her with me. And we don't really know if he was planning on healing her or letting Stefan heal her or what, but he's all pouty because he's stuck at the house without his daylight ring. And because he's bored, he ends up like impulsively being like, whatever, and like gives Vicky his blood to heal her himself. So then Stefan has taken Elena from their date to this like random location in the woods. And there's like these old like pillars, like, like at the end of a driveway, pillars, those kind of things. And she's like, where are we? And he explains that it's his house from 1864 because he's like 150 years old. In fact, he says, I've been 17 years old since 1864. But she stays with him. And then we get this like really fun flashback scene. I love the flashback scenes. I'm a costume designer. And I freaking love the clothing, the dresses that they put Catherine in. Oh my God. And the scenes where like the boys are in like the low cut open shirts, say less. And we see him and Damon, like young humans playing football in the yard. And Catherine is like very clearly flirting with both of them. And at first, like the first flashback that we see where she like meets Damon for the first time, she's clearly interested in Stefan. And even Damon like sees that, and he like kind of tries to push Stefan for her. He's like, go get her, like she wants you to get her. And then he's like, if you won't, I will. And it's kind of like a joke in the beginning. To me, it's very clear that that's how it starts, where like Damon realizes that Stefan and Catherine like each other, and he's like, I'll nudge my brother into getting Catherine. Catherine is a sneaky snake. She's the one that like very much instigates the love that they both have for her. So she starts flirting with Damon as well as flirting with Stefan and getting them to both like her. We find out in like over the course of these flashbacks that Catherine was using compulsion. According to Stefan, Catherine was using compulsion on both of them to keep them in a relationship with her. She's a vampire, so we can kind of, us and Elena, we can kind of assume that Catherine's the reason why the boys are vampires. Stefan like won't give her a direct answer on that. She makes a comment of like, oh, so that's what happened with you too? Like she just turned you, and like was it your choice or was it her choice? And he just doesn't fully respond. He's kind of like, it's complicated. We also, in these flashbacks, something that's really important, because we're getting Stefan's side of it right now, he's horrified by the fact that Catherine's a vampire and like that she's feeding off of him. He does not like it. He's not down for it. He's scared of her, and she has to use compulsion on him actively to like make him be quiet and stay in love with her. So then we go back to Damon and Vicky at the house, and Vicky feels great because she had Damon's blood, so she's like energized and feeling wonderful for the first time in days, because we know she's been struggling with drug addiction. So everything's better. She's just like solid, feeling great. They blood share, so they like both drink from each other at the same time. It's not really a big deal in this episode. It will be a big deal very soon. So I don't know if Damon just like doesn't like genuinely just doesn't care or what, but it's like not a big deal that they do that, but they do, because Vicky, like her emotions are heightened. That's what's going on with her, is she's like feeling all these different emotions like really, really strongly, because she's like mid transition, because she had his blood, and now if she dies, she'll come back as a vampire. So she's like in the beginning stages of like transition, and he ends up snapping her neck. In his own twisted way, he's like, he thinks he's helping her, because he's like, she's so miserable as a human. She hates herself. She hates her life. I'll just turn her into a vampire and she'll be happy, because she'll have anything she wants. She'll be able to do whatever she wants. She'll be happier. But then when she wakes up and she's like, oh, that was such a weird trip, and she like doesn't remember exactly what happened, he like very weakly explains it to her and is like, you're turning into a vampire because I'm a vampire and I bit you. And she's like, yeah, okay, bro, I'm gonna go home now. And he's like, okay, go see Jeremy, and just like shoos her off as a rabid little turning vampire onto the town. Vicky does go straight to Jeremy, and she's like super hungry, very sensitive to light and sound, so he just assumes she's on drugs and something's wrong with her. Stefan tells Elena that he never ever used compulsion on her the way Catherine did with him, and that the reason why he gave her the necklace was so that she could be safe from Damon, but also from him, and she would know that no matter what, every decision she made was her own. And Vicky ends up like finding out that all her friends are dead, and then freaking out. Stefan and Elena show up, and Stefan immediately is like, oh no, oh no. So then Vicky and Jeremy are up in his room having like a sweet little moment where he's comforting her. She goes to bite him and panics and leaves, and as she's running out, Matt runs after her, and then she just disappears. Matt like runs out into the street, and he's like, Vicky! Vicky's gone, okay, because Vicky's fast now. In the woods, Logan thinks he's found the vampire, and he's like, they're headed to the cemetery. Chaos. Where's Aunt Jenna? No one knows. Why isn't she home? I don't know. But at this point, she should be home with her two wards of the state, and she's not. While they're all freaking out, Damon shows up, and he's like teasing Elena. He's like, oh, you don't want me to come in? Move. And he's like, what, you're mad at me about Vicky? Like, Vicky's gonna thank me for what I did to her. And Elena just whips around with like, did you thank Catherine? And the look, okay? Remember when I said that Stefan wouldn't give her a clear answer about Catherine turning them? Damon gets that same look on his face, and he's like, I see Stefan told you everything, huh? Interesting. And like, it's very clear that we're missing something. Stefan finds Vicky, It's very sad. She's in the cemetery. She's remembered everything because now her human side is like almost entirely gone. And now she knows everything that happened to her. So she's like, I just want to go home. Just please let me go home. So she's like sobbing hysterically. He goes to pick her up and take her. And he gets shot in the chest because Logan shows up. So Stefan's like, oh, and then he falls out of frame and we see Logan in the back with the gun. And Vicky's like, oh my God, oh no. And he doesn't think she's the vampire. He thinks Stefan's the vampire. So he goes to like stake Stefan in the heart. And then Damon shows up and rips out Logan's throat. Damon starts digging the bullet out of Stefan's stomach, and Stefan's like, immediately when the bullet comes out, he's like, oh, I can breathe again. And then Damon is like, if anybody's gonna kill you, it's gonna be me. The boys are like having their little moment, and they turn because they hear like munching noises and slurping sounds. Freaking Vicky's eating Logan, and she like stands up, she's covered in blood. It's terrible. Logan is very much dead, and she's just like, I'm sorry, and then runs away. Stefan goes to Elena and she's like, what happened? Where's Vicky? And he's like, I don't know. I lost her. I'm sorry. She fed. She's a turned vampire. What are we going to do? We're going to have to lie to Matt and Jeremy. And Elena's like, we can't lie to Matt and Jeremy. I'm not doing that. And he's like, we have to. It's the only way to keep everybody safe. You and I have to do this. And she's like, that's where you're wrong, Stefan. And then she like shuts the door on him. And he's standing in the hallway all emotional, and she's like with her back to the door, just sobbing. Nina is such a good crier. Okay, Elena's gonna cry a lot. Catherine's gonna cry a little bit. Every scene is great. I love Nina crying. Okay, she's really good at it. But I would like to remind all of you that they've been together for like maybe a week. They might know each other a week at this point, and she is sobbing hysterically on the floor. So episode 7 opens with a character that I'm not going to blame you if you forgot about. It's been a little while since we talked about him, but terrible Tyler is back. He's in the back of the school, like leaving from like practice or something. It's unspecified. He's a duffel bag. It's whatever. And he gets to his car and he's definitely like, someone's watching me. When he gets in the vehicle, Vicky's in the car and she's like, hi, Tyler, like with her hair down in front of her face. And he's like, Vicky, oh my God, are you okay? And he shows like genuine care for her. Tyler's annoying, whatever. She attacks him. And boys show up and diffuse the situation. They grab Vicky and take her away. And then Damon uses compulsion on Tyler, so he forgets everything. And then we get to the next morning where Jeremy is leaving to go to the search party for Vicky instead of going to school. And Elena kind of gives him a hard time about this. She's like, you should go to school. And he's like, you're talking and I wish you would just... Matt, Vicky's brother, is at school and not at the search party. I've never really understood that. I don't know why Matt isn't also at the search party, but either way, Vicky calls him and she's like, don't look for me. I'm fine. I just need some time. So when Matt hangs up, we go to Vicky's end of the phone call where she's in the Salvatore house with the boys. And Damon is basically like, she needs people blood, brother. Like, she's not going to handle this well. And Vicky's like, yeah, I'm not going to handle this well. Give me the people blood. And Stefan's like, no. And he keeps giving her like bunnies in a cup to drink. Tyler's parents are, I think they're at the grill for this moment. Everybody's always at the grill. So they're at the grill, like complaining about how terrified they are that the compass is missing. And they're like, we have to get that back. What if the vampire's watching us? And she's having like a full minty bee over it. And the dad is just like, calm down. We're going to get it handled. It's going to be fine. Or we're all going to die. Damon's like 2 tables over listening to them with his little vampire ears. It's Halloween because why wouldn't it be another holiday? So Caroline brings Bonnie a witch costume and she gives her the necklace that Damon had given her. And she's like, I don't want it anymore. You keep it. So Elena has come over before school to like check on Vicky and Stefan. And Vicky gets Stefan to admit to Elena that he did in fact used to drink animal blood. And he has this whole broody moment where he's like, I'm not proud of my past. And Elena's like, did you kill people? Like, it's very uncomfortable. And Vicky's just sitting there like, and when Stefan goes outside to get her more blood, Elena and her are like left in the house together, and Vicky's like, I'm calling Jeremy, and Elena's like, no, you're not. And Vicky's like, I'll freaking kill you. She like smashes Elena up on the wall, and Elena's like, she threatened me. And Stefan's like, yeah, girl, she's real stressed. Meanwhile, Damon is around Vicky, right where he should not be, and he tells her that like, hey, it's nighttime now. Let's go out. Let's go have fun. So he takes her to the front yard, and Stefan's like, no, she can't go outside. And Damon's like, it'll be fine. She can't be cooped up in here forever. And he decides that the first thing she should learn how to do is do the vamp speed and go really fast. So of course she runs away, and then the boys are just standing there, and there's like ominous, like sad music playing, and Damon's just like, my bad. Vicky goes to her house, and then she can't get in because she's a vampire, and even though she has a key, she can't get inside. So Matt lets her in, and then when Stefan shows up and is like, let me explain, let me inside so I can help her, Vicky's like, don't let him in here. He hurt me. Blah, blah, blah. And Matt's like, I'll kill you, man. Oh, get out of my house. So then Stefan can't get inside. Tyler's parents are fighting. And then Damon shows up and starts flirting with the mom. And we find out that like the mom is part of the council, which we already kind of knew, but Damon's like learning all of it. So there's a founders council. And Uncle Zach was part of that. And we find out that Uncle Zach was like supposed to supply the vervain. So obviously he's dead now. But Damon's like, oh, he left town, but don't worry, he told me about all of that. I know about the vervain. I'm a Salvatore. Like, I could get you the vervain. And she basically just tells him everything. That there's, like, friends and family that need vervain. There's a whole council that needs vervain. So she won't tell him, like, exactly who's on the council. But she's like, Zach knows. So if you can talk to Zach about it, he'll tell you everything. And then she leaves. And Damon's like, interesting, I have so much knowledge now. It's the Halloween party at the school, because it's Halloween. Elena and Matt show up wearing their costumes from the year before, so they match, and it's cute, and they both like laugh about it. Vicky shows up dressed as a vampire because she's crazy, and Bonnie shows up dressed like a witch because Caroline has a really mean sense of humor. Then we cut to Damon asking Bonnie where Caroline is, and I am just going to put it out there now, I absolutely freaking love Damon and Bonnie together. So he's like, I want my necklace back. And she's like, you can't have the necklace. And he's like, I'll take it. And when he goes to grab it, it like burns him. And he's like, what? And she's like, oh my God. And like runs away because she's terrified. Vicky grabs Jeremy and they have like a little makeout session. And then she's like, come with me. They go outside to the school buses. And they're making out on a school bus. And she's like, come with me. We can be together forever. And he's like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. And like, he's worried about her too. He's like, I wish you'd tell me where you were. I want to know what happened. And she's like, look, I just have to leave and everything will be better. Then she bites his lip on accident. He's rightfully very uncomfortable with this. And so he's like, Vicky, please get off me. And she's like, surprise, I have demon face now. And she like goes at him. And he's just like, Vicky, no. And she's like, Vicky, yes. And then Elena shows up. And Elena's like, oh my God, goes to hit her with a random piece of like broken wood that she finds in the back of the school near the school buses. She picks that up and she goes to swing it at her. And Vicky's like, you sucker, and like throws her. Elena crashes into more of that broken wood. So now there's conveniently several pieces of sharp, spiky wood on the ground. You guys see where this is going. Stefan shows up and he's like, Vicky, no, enough. And she's like, I'll kill you too, Stefan. They kind of tussle. She gets away. And Stefan's like, Elena, Jeremy, into the house, into the school, go. They run. They're right out the doorway. Freaking Vicky shows up again and she's like, snatch. And she snatches Jeremy, pushes him, and she grabs Elena and she's like, and bites her on the neck. And she screams bloody freaking murder. I don't know how no one else heard. And then Stefan stabs Vicky through the heart. So Jeremy is devastated. Elena is like in shock because she's, bleeding from a very bad shoulder wound. And Vicky, she like dies in Stefan's arms and then just falls to the ground and she turns gray and her veins. I'll put a picture up on the screen. It's a little bit of a jump scare. It's not fun. Jeremy is like horrifically screaming in the background and Elena's just standing there like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. We cut away from that scene to Bonnie going to Graham's and being like, I did something with this necklace and I don't know what happened and I'm really scared. Like I keep doing these things I can't explain. And her grandma's like, well, yeah, girl, you're a witch. Also, that's not just any necklace. That's your ancestor's necklace. And she's like, what do you mean? And she shows her a picture of Emily freaking Bennett wearing the necklace. Emily Bennett is from the 1800s. And we have seen her very briefly in the flashbacks with Catherine. That is all we know about Emily Bennett for now. And so Damon shows up to collect Vicky, and Elena's still there with the body, and she's like, you are the worst, and I hate you. And he's like, I don't care. And she's like, yes, you do. People die around you, and that matters. And he's like, and she just slaps the crap out of him. And he doesn't, there have been a couple times where he's been hit, and like he hasn't reacted. When Elena hits him, he like moves, and like it affects him. And then he's like, you need to leave. And she's like, make me. And he's like, your wounds are bleeding. You need to leave. But it's not, he doesn't, like, his eyes don't change. And it's more so the idea of, like, she has made him angry. She's gotten to him. And he knows if he doesn't leave, he could be impulsive and hurt her. So it's like he's fighting that instinct that he has with everyone else, where he's just like, you annoyed me, die. He has that with her, but he doesn't do it. Just saying. Back at the house, Jeremy is very upset. This is one of my favorite scenes from the early episodes. He's also a pretty good crier, so he's having like a whole, emotional moment with his sister, and he's like, this hurts. Why does this hurt? I don't want this. And then he's like, why does everybody die on me? She's like, I don't want this for Jeremy. Like, can you take his pain away? And Stefan's like, I can't. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not strong enough. It could backfire. It could break. Like, I can't. And then from the shadows behind them, Damon is like, I'll do it. So they didn't even have to ask. Nobody called Damon. Nobody told him to come to the house. And then he goes upstairs and he like does exactly what Elena asks, which was to take away like the memories of everything, so he doesn't know that Vicky died. He just thinks Vicky left town, she's not coming back, and even though he misses her, he knows it's for the best and everything's going to be fine. And then Stefan and her have this moment where she's like, I wish I could forget everything. And I wish that like I just never knew that I knew you. And he's like, okay, if that's what you want, we can do that. And she's like, no, I don't actually want that, Stefan. Okay, I don't want to forget how I feel about you. And then before they can do anything with that revelation, Damon comes back down and he's like, it's done. So we open episode 8 with Stefan like waking up in the living room, and he clearly thinks that like somebody's in the house with him. There's like ominous music playing. We hear a girl laughing. We hear a door open and close. There's wind blowing, like the little whooshing noise of somebody running around the house is happening. So he's like, Damon, brother, Damon, and then all of a sudden somebody jumps on him, knocks him to the ground, and he's like, what the heck? And it's a girl, and she's blonde, and she's hissing at him, and he's just like, Lexi? And she's like, hi. So she's shown up because it's Stefan's 162nd birthday. She's here to celebrate with him. So we kind of assume immediately that like they're very close friends and they're super excited to see each other. They end up in his room like talking about everything that's happened and just going over all the events that we know from the last episodes. He's kind of into the fact that he's got a new girlfriend, doesn't seem to care that the girlfriend is human, like she's kind of down with whatever. And we learn that she is going to be stuck at the house because she doesn't have a daylight ring, and she doesn't like Catherine, she doesn't like Damon either. She's kind of over both of them, but she's very happy to see Stefan, and she's like, yeah, go do your human thing. I'll be here when you get done, and then we'll celebrate tonight. Elena, who in the last episode was like, I can't fight the way I feel about you, now she's like, Stefan, leave me alone. It's too hard being around you. And Stefan's like, great, it's my birthday. Damon, like, hides in the bed with Lexi, and she wakes up, and she's like, oh, what are you doing here? And he, like, picks on her. They have, like, a little bit of banter back and forth. He gets a little too flirty, and she, like, pins him down to the bed, and she's like, I am older than you, and I will kill you. And he's like, I'm sorry. And it's so funny. Lexi's older and stronger and better than Damon and Stefan, so Damon's like, I'm not messing with you anymore. We go to Grams and Bonnie, and Grams is basically like, don't take your necklace off. Don't give your necklace back. That's your family necklace. You need to keep it. It found you. It's special. No more information on Emily Bennett, though. Aunt Jenna is really upset because Logan left her with just an email saying that he was leaving town. So she has no idea that Logan's dead because they're covering it up for some reason. Jeremy is like, suspiciously better, like he's like fixed, and so he is like doing homework and studying and being an all-around good student. And Elena and Jenna are like, what's going on with Jeremy? And he's like, can you guys leave me alone? Like, I'm just doing my schoolwork like you want me to do. And they're like, he's an alien boy now. Damon delivers Vervain to the sheriff and tries to get more information on the council. Still doesn't really get full numbers on all of that, but we know that she's starting to trust him now. And we also know that she believes that the vampire can come out in the daylight. She's like, I don't understand how we're not finding them. They must be able to come out during the day. That must be why we can't find them. Bonnie goes to check on Elena to cheer her up, and she ends up like finding out that her and Stefan broke up, and she's like, what can I do? Can I do anything? And Elena's like, no, I'm heartbroken. This sucks. And Bonnie's like, okay. And she cuts a pillow open and makes the feathers float around the room to show Elena her magical powers. And Elena feels really guilty because she's like, if Graham's told you not to tell anybody, why are you telling me? And Bonnie's like, you're my best friend. Of course I have to tell you, because remember, Bonnie and Elena are best friends, and Caroline is the extra. Damon forces Caroline to like him again. And then he also is like, I need you to throw a party tonight and invite the whole town, and I need you to get the necklace back from Bonnie. And she's like, why can't you get the necklace back from Bonnie? And he's like, do what I say or I'll eat you. And she's like, valid, okay. Stefan is really, really anxious about going to the party and very distrustful of the fact that Damon like wants them all to go. But Lexi's like, I could care less about your brother. I'm not afraid of him. We're going to this party. It's your birthday. Man up, we're gonna go have fun. You only turn 162 once. Then they're getting ready for the party, and Lexi like comes downstairs just in her towel while Elena's coming inside, and they see each other, and Lexi's like, oh my god, like shocked because she looks like Catherine, and she didn't know that up until this point. So Lexi's having an internal freak out, but it looks like she's shocked that Elena has shown up. And then Elena is like, why is there a hot girl in a towel in my boyfriend that I can't decide if I want to dump or not's house? So then she's upset, and then it's awkward, and then they both leave, and then Lexi just rips into Stefan, and she's like, you're insane and disgusting. Why are you dating a girl who looks just like Catherine? It didn't work the first time. It's not going to work the second time. And he's like, that's not why I'm with her. Elena is so different from Catherine. Elena is warm and kind and human and blah, blah, blah. And freaking Lexi's like, oh my God, you're in love with her. And he's like, yes, I am. So they all go to the party at the grill. But then Stefan goes to find out why Elena had come to the house. And they have this fun little thing where she's like, oh yeah, how's Towel Girl doing? And he's like, whoa, Towel Girl is my oldest friend. Nothing romantic, I pinky swear. Absolutely not. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. She just brushes it off and believes him, which he's not lying, but I feel like it would be a little more annoying than that. I don't know. And then he basically is like, it's my birthday. Will you come to the grill with me? And she's like, yeah, I can't do that. I know I said I can't not be with you, but then I can't be with you, but then I also still cannot not be with you. Like, I'm not coming. I don't want to go. And he's like, okay. And he goes to the girl without her, and she stays home. At the party, Caroline tries to take the necklace from Bonnie by telling her that she looks fat when she wears the necklace. She also makes a really terrible, inappropriate joke that I am not even going to repeat here. But yeah, bad writing from the 2000s. So that happens. And then when she tries to just take the necklace from Bonnie, Bonnie zaps her again. And then when Caroline goes to Damon and is like, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the necklace, he's super hateful. And he's like, you're stupid, shallow, and absolutely useless. And she's devastated. Stefan apologizes to Matt about not being able to save Vicky and says that he wanted to save her because he suffered with the same thing. And Matt's just kind of like very broken about it, and he's like, yeah, whatever, she's just like her mom, and I should have expected this. We cut to Damon attacking a couple in the alley outside the grill. Right after that, he runs into Elena watching Lexi and Stefan being cute at the pool table, and she's like, can you leave me alone? And he's like, does it ever get tiring being righteous all the time? And she's like, sorry, it flares up around psychopaths. And he's like, ow, this psychopath's feelings are hurt. You're so mean to me. And she's like, what did you do to Jeremy? Girl, what do you think he did to Jeremy? Exactly what you asked him to, which is what Damon says. She's like, yeah, well, why is he normal now? Why is he doing homework and caring about school and being the brother that I've wanted him to be the whole time this show's been happening? And Damon's like, because you told me to take away his suffering, and I did. A cop finds the girl that we thought Damon killed. Only the boy has been killed, not the girl. The girl's alive. Elena and Lexi bond inside over Stefan and loving Stefan, and Lexi like encourages her, and she also tells Elena that the love of her life was a human. And then ominous music begins to play, and Elena's like, Lexi, wait, it was really nice to meet you. And Lexi's like, wasn't it? We go back to Matt, who is with Caroline, helping a very drunk Caroline, who's like very upset. She keeps saying like, I'm shallow, I'm useless, and repeating all the things Damon said. And Matt's like, let's get you home. I think we should just take you home. So she's so drunk that she's like falling down. So Matt just like fully carries her out of the grill. It's so sweet. And then when he gets her home, he like tucks her in, he takes her shoes off and tucks her in, and they kind of bond a little bit over like how lonely they are and just like how bad each of their lives has gotten, even though neither of them really knows what the other one is dealing with. Contextually, you have to remember that these guys all grew up together, so they've always known each other, and there's a lot of love between all of them, even if grown up their relationships are a little different. So when he goes to leave, she like grabs his hand and she's like, will you stay with me? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And he just gets right in the bed with her and they cuddle. So then back at the party, Lexi just straight up confronts Damon and she's like, I want to know the real reason why you're back here. And he's like, okay, you want to know? And she's like, yeah, I do. And he's like, well, I have an evil mastermind plan. And she's like, what is it? And he's like, girl, I can't tell you. Then that would ruin it. And then we see the sheriff coming in with the girl that Damon attacked, and the girl points to where Damon is sitting at the bar, and they're like, okay, great, we're gonna go get him. And they go to get him, and then they stab Lexi in the freaking leg with a vervain needle, and they kidnap Lexi because that was Damon's plan all along. So then they're taking Lexi, and Damon's like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, Lexi. And Stefan's like, whoa, what's happening from the other side of the room? And him and Elena go running, and they have to get outside, and then Lexi's being dragged away by the cops. Well, she's, a 300-plus-year-old vampire, so she, like, hulks out and breaks away from the people, goes to attack Caroline's mom, and she's so strong and scary that Caroline's mom fires, like, 3 or 4 bullets, just like ding, 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 ding in her, and it doesn't work. She just keeps being like, ow, and then walking again, ow, and then walking again, and Caroline's mom is terrified. And then Damon shows up and stakes Lexi in the heart. It's the worst, and she, like, doesn't die. Like, when Vicky died pretty quickly. It was like a ka-chunk, and then she turned immediately and then died. Lexi, like, has a couple extra seconds, and so she's looking at Damon, and she's like, why? And Damon's like, it's part of the plan. And he does kind of seem upset. Like, he doesn't look thrilled that he's done this to Lexi, is all I'm gonna say. And in case you were wondering where Stefan is, he's around the corner watching it happen, unable to do anything with Elena. Caroline's mom is like, thank you so much for saving me. So we realize that that's what Damon wanted all along, was a way in with the council. So then Stefan is like so upset that Damon has done this that he like kind of goes off his rocker a little bit, and he's like, I'm going to kill him. It's over. I'm going to kill him. And Elena's like, no, you can't do that. If you do that, it's going to ruin you. Just stay here and talk to me. And he's like, girl, make up your mind. But what he says is, no, you were right. I should stay away from you. And then back at the house, Damon is like drinking, which is something he does when he's upset. So he's drinking, and then Stefan shows up and he's like, I'm going to kill you. And they tussle. Damon doesn't really fight back very much. He like takes the punches when Stefan punches him. I think he shoves Stefan at one point, but just to like get him off of him. He doesn't like actively like try to hit Stefan back, which again, I think is his way of showing remorse for his actions. He knows it was really screwed up that he killed Lexi, but he felt like he didn't have any other choice. So now he's letting Stefan take his anger out on him. Well, then Stefan gets him pinned on the wall, and Damon's like, I did this for us. Like, now it's over. They think the vampire's gone. We can just exist in Mystic Falls. You can be with Elena now. You should be thanking me. And Stefan's like, stab, and stabs him almost in the heart. And Damon's like, ow, you missed. And Stefan's like, no, I didn't. You spared me. I spare you. We are done. And then we cut to our final scene, which is Bonnie running through the woods with her necklace. And she's running and running and running. She falls. She sees Emily Bennett, and she's like, where am I? What's going on? Emily Bennett is like, it's coming. And then cut, Bonnie is awake in the woods. So was her dream a dream, or did she really run through the woods? We don't know, but now she's awake in the cemetery, confused. So Bonnie is in class, opening of the episode. She's in class. She sees somebody in the hallway. She goes out into the hallway. It's Emily. She follows Emily through the school. They end up in the cemetery. Bonnie's like, what's going on? Emily's like, here's this old church. This is where I brought you in the cemetery. It ends where it began. And Bonnie's like, what does that mean? And Emily's like, you have to help me. She like rushes at Emily, or she rushes at Bonnie. Bonnie wakes up in school. Everybody's like, girl, what's going on? She's like, nothing, I'm fine. No, she's not. She turns. Emily's next to her in the classroom. She wakes up again. She's freaking back in the cemetery, just like the ending of the last episode. In school for real, this time, we meet our new character. His name is Alaric Saltzman. He's the replacement history teacher. You remember the guy Damon ate? That guy has a replacement now. It's Rick. So then we go to Bonnie, who is telling Elena everything. She's really scared about what's going on with the necklace. She doesn't understand it, and she's afraid of going to Graham's because she's like, Graham's is going to tell me to embrace this side of myself, and I don't want to be haunted by my dead ancestors. I just want to be a normal girl. Why do I have to be a witch? And Elena's like, oh my God, we'll figure it out together. It's all going to be fine. And Bonnie's like, it's not going to be fine though. Alaric holds Jeremy back after class and basically says like, hey, I'm starting fresh. I know the old teacher didn't like you. How about extra credit? Why don't you write me a paper on something about this town? This town has so much history. Write me something about this town that's not from Wikipedia, and I'll bump your grades back up because I can tell you're trying. And Jeremy's like, wow, thank you so much, strange new teacher who I trust immediately. I like your ring. And Alaric's like, this big clunky thing on my finger that looks suspiciously like the Salvatore Boys' ring? Thank you. It's a family heirloom. Damon shows up at school and tries to get the necklace back from Bonnie. And she's like, no, you can't have it. This is mine. And he's like, girl, I know where you got it from. I know all about Emily. I'm the reason why that necklace exists. You need to give it back to me. And she's like, no. And he's like, the next time she comes out to play, you tell her a deal's a deal. And I'm trying to protect you and you're being an idiot. Okay, little Bennett witch? I love when he calls her that. Elena ends up calling Stefan and she's like, I'm sorry I had to call you, but this is really bad. Bonnie's like super worried about this necklace and Damon, and I'm afraid he's going to hurt her. And Stefan's like, why does he even want the necklace? And Elena's like, because this is like something to do with Bonnie's ancestor Emily, and I don't know anything else, but he like wants it and he knows about Emily and we're concerned. And Stefan's like, oh, Emily the Bennett witch, that was Catherine's handmaiden. Yes, Stefan, that would have been good information for the group to know, okay? So now Stefan's kind of putting the pieces together and he's like, cool, so this has something to do with Catherine, probably. I'll figure it out. And Elena's like, okay, thank you. Jenna kind of meets up with Jeremy and she's like, you should do your history paper on the family history because we have like a lot of secrets in our family and there's like lots of like founding family knowledge that your dad has up in the attic in all his journals. You should read those family journals. The family journals could be important, Jeremy. Read the family journals. And Jeremy's like, wow, Aunt Jenna, I'll read the family journals. And we're all like, oh my God, he's going to find out everything about vampires. Then Rick shows up at the grill as well. And he's like very keen on getting to know Jeremy and Jenna more. He's very flirty with Jenna. Rick ends up telling Jenna that he's in town because he loves history and this town has a lot of history. And then his wife died and they don't know how she died, but he has like a tragic past too because Jenna equates Logan potentially cheating on her with Rick's wife dying, and they bond over that. It is not the same thing. They seem to think it is. That works for them. It's fine. The boys, Damon and Stefan, do this thing, and they keep it up. It's like a bit that they do throughout the show where they'll like pretend to be each other, and they like caricature each other to have conversations where it's like they don't want to talk to each other. So then Stefan will show up and he'll be like, hey, Stefan, so remember how you were really mad at me? Well, I think I like could forgive you now, and like maybe we could talk. And then Damon will be like, oh, Damon, I don't know. Can I trust you? Probably not. And they like pick on each other with it. Anyway, they are at the grill together playing their little game, and Stefan is trying to kind of lull Damon into security about him not being mad that he killed his best friend of like 150 years and that everything's fine because he wants to know why Damon wants that necklace. And Damon plays along even though he's very smart and he knows Stefan is messing with him. He's like, yeah, why not? And this also happens quite a bit where Damon will have done something and Stefan will dangle being friends with him again to get what he wants. And because Damon loves him so much, he'll go along with it, even though he knows Stefan is manipulating him. He'll be like, whatever, I'll hang out with my brother for the afternoon. We can fight later. The girls, Caroline, Elena, and Bonnie, have a sleepover. Caroline apologizes about the necklace. Bonnie is like, well, don't worry, I threw the necklace away. Caroline's like, you're the worst. Why didn't you just give it to me? Bonnie's like, I couldn't. I needed to get rid of it. I'm being haunted. They have this whole ensuing fight, and then Caroline ends up finding the necklace back in Bonnie's possession, even though they got rid of it. And she's like, you were such a little snake. You lied to me. And Elena's like, no, Caroline, we got rid of it. And Bonnie's like, you never even listen to me, Caroline. This is why we don't tell you everything, because I'm a witch. And Caroline's like, yeah, we know. And Bonnie's like, see, you never listened to me. And like, girl, that was not the way to tell her, okay? It just wasn't the way to tell her. But they end up making up, and Caroline's like, I don't believe in this stuff, but if you do, that's enough for me. That's all you have to tell me, and I'm on your side. And she's not lying. Like, Caroline Forbes is very shallow. She's very set in her ways, but she's also like fiercely loyal, okay? Like, she is never, ever, ever going to turn her back on her friends when it matters. Will she get upset about like petty things that have no consequence? Yes, repeatedly, almost every episode. But in the long term, she's a wonderful friend, and I really like her. So they all make up, and then Caroline's like, I think we should have a seance to get in contact with Emily. And Elena and Bonnie are like, absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. They do it anyway, because of course. And it happens, like it starts to work, and Bonnie freaks out because the candles flare and the windows open and it's cold. And she's like, I hate this. So she like snatches the necklace off and throws it on the ground, and then the lights go out and everybody's like, what's happening? And when the lights come back on, the necklace is missing. So Stefan has taken Damon on this like adventure day to be brothers, and now they're out on the football field playing football, and they end up like tackling each other and laying on the ground, and Damon's like, look, brother, why don't you just tell me what it is that you want? And Stefan, instead of asking about the necklace, is just like, Catherine didn't love us. It was all compulsion. It was never real. And Damon's like, okay, yeah, we're not getting into this tonight. Goodbye. And he goes to leave. And then Stefan is like, what do you want with the necklace? Why do you need Catherine's necklace back? Blah, blah, blah. And Damon's like, wouldn't you like to know? Also, how do you know it's Catherine's? Emily gave that to her the night she died, and I was with her all night. Stefan turns around with, actually, I was the last person to see her that night. Damon is crushed. And he just like trumps everything that's happened by being like, you don't need to know everything. It doesn't even matter. I'm going to bring Catherine back. Bye. And then and Stefan just lets him go. Stefan's like so shocked that he's like, cool, walk out of scene, brother. We'll handle this later. So Damon leaves. The girls find the necklace. Bonnie's like, oh, here it is. It's like on Elena's bed in her room. Bonnie goes into the room to get it, and when she picks it up, like the door is shut, and she starts screaming bloody murder. So Caroline's like, oh my God, open the door. Bonnie's just screaming bloody murder. The lights are going crazy. It's horribly chaotic. And then it just all stops. And they're like, Bonnie, open the door. She opens the door, and she's like got her head down like this. And when she stands up, she's like completely normal and calm, and she's like, I'm fine. And her voice is different, like something's wrong. And Caroline's like, I knew you were faking it. This was all fake. You guys lied to me again. You guys are such bad friends. And Elena's like, something is definitely wrong. And Caroline's like, I'm leaving. Something is wrong and I'm upset. So she leaves. And then Bonnie's just like little Miss Possessed, like walking around like this. It's so weird. And in the mirror, we see freaking Emily instead of Bonnie. So it's like Emily's ghost in the mirror and then Bonnie in the script. Not good. So Elena ends up figuring out that it's Emily. Bonnie's like going down the stairs, and she's like, I have to stop him. It has to stop. This can't continue. I have to end it. And Elena's like, what do you mean, Bonnie? What do you mean? And then she's like, Emily. And Emily like, because it's Bonnie, but it's Emily in there. So Emily answers, and she's like, I have to stop him. And then she leaves. And Elena calls Stefan immediately, and she's like, look, something's wrong. I think probably she's going to the church, because that's where Emily's been sending her in her dreams. And Stefan's like, I'm on it. Don't worry. I got this. He got nothing because Damon was listening with his little vamp ears, heard everything on the phone, so he gets there first. And then it's, Bonnie possessed by Emily and Damon. And she's like, I'm sorry, but I have to do it this way. It's over, deal's off. And he's like, girl, I protected your family for you. you can't do this. Like, I'm the reason why the Bennett witches never got caught. You have to bring Catherine back. And she's like, I can't, Damon, I can't. We go back to the Gilbert house where Rick brings Jenna home from the grill, and he doesn't come in. He hovers by the door and leans against the door frame all moodily, with his big chunky family heirloom ring on display. And Jeremy's in the kitchen, and Jenna definitely wants Rick to come in, but she's like, I'm not going to invite you in yet because Jeremy's here. And he's like, don't worry about it, Jenna. Maybe some other time. It is so suspicious. Meanwhile, Jeremy's in the kitchen finding an old family notebook. Stefan finds Damon, gets him off the tree that he's been impaled on. Then they both find Emily Bonnie, and she's like, Stefan, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to come to this, but they can't be released on the town. And Stefan's like, they? Damon, what the heck? Did you not tell me everything? And Damon's like, of course I didn't tell you everything. When do I ever tell you the whole truth? I don't tell anyone the whole truth. And Stefan's like, this is so typical of you. And then Emily Bonnie explains that when she trapped Catherine under the church to save her, she had to trap everybody under the church to save her. So all of the vampires, 27 to be exact, back when they were murdered in the church, that story that Damon told Elena back at the party, they didn't die. They've been trapped under the church this whole time in a weird crypt thing. Emily Bonnie is like, I can't let them out. So she does a spell to stop them from being able to come out. We don't really understand. She burns the necklace, which is what's connected to the spell. The magic in this story is a little convoluted, but the necklace is tied to the spell. So then she burns the necklace, meaning the spell can't be broken now. Damon is distraught. Okay, he's hell-bent on letting these people out and letting them wreak havoc on the town. He does not care about the consequences. He just wants Catherine. So now he's just devastated. When the smoke clears and Emily Bonnie has finished the spell and Emily's gone, Damon just attacks Bonnie. Just full stop, tries to rip her throat out. Elena's there watching everything. She's devastated. Stefan is able to heal Bonnie because she didn't die. She just was very injured, and so he gives her his blood and she's fine. Matt and Caroline are still together. They're having a cute little snack session hangout because he went to her and was like, hey, I'm sorry that I handled you freaking out on me earlier today poorly, because I too have been freaking out because I didn't think I liked you. And then we cuddled, and it turns out I do like you. We cut back to the cemetery. The girls are gone, but Stefan's trying to comfort Damon, and Damon basically admits that he was never under compulsion with Catherine. So we kind of saw that coming, but it's really painful because Stefan was horrified by Catherine and did not want to be with her once he realized who she was, and she had to keep him in line with compulsion, whereas Damon genuinely loved her and didn't care that she was a vampire. Bonnie wakes up and doesn't remember what happened. She just knows that she's hurt and Damon had something to do with it, and she's very confused. Elena is like, don't worry, I'm going to explain everything. Then she tells Stefan, I really am going to explain everything. I'm going to have to tell her because I can't keep this a secret from her anymore. I have to tell somebody. And he's like, absolutely, do your thing. Then this little girly is like, also, I'm so sorry that I said that I couldn't be with you. I take it all back. I want to be with you so badly. I like you so much. Please, can we be together? I'm not afraid of you anymore. And he's like, actually, I'm leaving town, and it's better if we never see each other again. My bad. We do get to see Stefan show some emotion after this. No hate to Paul Wesley, okay? No hate to him, but Stefan is just brick wall, emotionless being. And in this scene where we're getting a montage of all the little things happening, we do see him crying over leaving Elena, and he's pretty beaten up about it because we do know that he thinks he loves her after 2 months of knowing each other. He's pretty sure that she's the one, and now he has to leave. So he's devastated. And we see Damon in the cemetery being all broody and sad. And then the final moment of the episode is Jenna at the house cleaning up after Jeremy and putting away all the family stuff that he was digging through. The doorbell rings and she goes to get the door. Do you guys want to guess who it is? Think about everybody we've lost this season. Who could it be? Freaking Logan Fell. That's right. I bet you didn't see that one coming. He's back and he's like, hey, Jenna, aren't you going to invite me in? So Jenna opens the door to find Logan, and she is shocked to see him. And he's basically just like, I'm sorry, I was out of town. I wanted to call you back. My cat is here. Zach is back. I wanted to call you, but I was out of town. And she's like, yeah, I got your email. And he's like, my email? It becomes very clear that like he does not know what happened to him since he's been gone, but he's back now and he wants to talk to Jenna. And she's like, yeah, no, you can't come in. I don't like you anymore. Get out of my life. Bye. And she shuts the door in his face. So Jeremy is going through the ancestor journals. These are from Jonathan Gilbert, who's like his great grandfather or something. And he basically is talking about the dangers in the town, but he's not being specific. So instead of saying like literal vampire, he's saying like death comes at night and the town's dangerous at night and all of this stuff. And Jeremy's kind of like, this guy is nutty. And when he tells Jenna about it, Jenna's like, yeah, he was a drunk, but he was also a writer. And he was like really popular. He wrote really popular short stories, but yeah, he was kind of crazy. You know, he's a Gilbert, haha. Damon and Stefan are both planning to leave town, and they won't tell each other where they're going because they're being difficult and trying to keep the other one out of their business. But the sheriff shows up, and she's like, Damon, there was an attack last night. Somebody's dead. And he's like, what? I thought we killed the blonde one. And she's like, you did, homie, but there's another one. Stefan listens through the door, and when the sheriff leaves, he like attacks Damon, and he's like, you did this. And Damon's like, why would I be so stupid? I cover up after myself. I'm not an idiot, which means there's another vampire in town. So I guess you and I aren't going anywhere. At school, Matt and Caroline are being really cute and flirty, and like it's very clear that they've been hanging out more than what we've seen on screen. Elena is kind of like weirded out by it, but Bonnie's like, I think it's good for her. I think she needs a nice guy. I think that that's fine. Tyler, Jerky Tyler, is like, I hate this, Matt. This is my least favorite thing you've ever done. This is going to ruin everything for us. You're going to become a wee person, and I hate it. I hate this, and I hate Caroline, and I hate you. And Matt's kind of just like, okay, dude, like, you don't have to be so mean about it. Stefan shows back up at the school, and he's like, I need to tell you what's going on. Surprise, I'm not leaving. And he explains everything to Elena, and she also is like, so Damon killed someone? And he's like, no, it wasn't Damon. We don't know who it was. We cut to Caroline, who is using the compass to help Damon, who cannot use it because he's a vampire. She used the compass to track down where Logan is, even though they don't know it's Logan yet. And then Damon goes into the warehouse alone, and Logan jumps out at him and shoots him with wooden bullets and is like, who turned me? And Damon's like, I don't know. Who turned you? You would be great if you would tell me. I'd love to know who we're dealing with. And he's like, no, you know who turned me. You bit me and left me to die. And you know what, bro? I couldn't even go home. I woke up in an unmarked grave off the highway. I dug myself out of my grave, and then I couldn't even go home because I live alone and I couldn't get inside. And Damon's like, that is rough, buddy. And Logan does not think it's funny. They have a little torture back and forth moment. Logan wants to know how to walk in the sun, and Damon's like not about to explain it to him. So he's like, you can just go. And Logan ends up leaving him there with the several bullets just in his body. At the job fair at school, because that's this episode's event.
Commonwealth Day, Historical Society.
It's the little job fair. Caroline sees Matt and Elena talking, and they're literally talking about Caroline. And Elena's kind of teasing him about liking Caroline. My cat's back. About liking Caroline, and she sees them talking, and she gets upset and is like, this is annoying that they're talking, and then she leaves. Stefan is also watching, and he's like being a little lurker, and when Elena calls him out on it, he's like, yeah, I'm here to look after you. And she, in this moment, is when she sort of seems to realize, like, maybe we can't be together because you're gonna never get older and I'm gonna get older, and then you're gonna have to leave. Like, we're never gonna be able to like be in one place at the same time for very long and like be together long term. It's just not gonna work. So at least she's starting to like big brain thoughts about the whole situation and how dumb it is, because he certainly never did. Jenna shows up at the job fair to Elena and Stefan and says that Logan's back and she needs to be hidden because she's like, I don't want to see Logan. Stefan has a panic attack because he's like, what do you mean Logan is back? And then Logan is there and he's like, hi, Stefan. And Logan just is evil, radiating evil feral energy. So Stefan is like, you gotta leave. And he like looks at Elena meaningfully, and she looks at him meaningfully, and then she takes Jenna and they leave the room. And Stefan is like, what are you doing here? And Logan's like, let's just cut to the chase, Stefan. Tell me how to walk in the sunlight. And Stefan's like, no. And Logan's like, I could kill you. And Stefan's like, that is so funny. You will never learn how to walk in the sun. Do not threaten me again. And he does his like brooding forehead thing. And Logan is like, oh my God. Caroline tells her mom that she wants to be a broadcast journalist. And her mom is like, a broadcast journalist? You don't even read the paper. They have this thing where, like, every time Caroline tries to reach out to her mom and, like, extend an olive branch, her mom just, like, breaks the branch in half inadvertently. So Caroline storms off, and her mom's like, oh, and goes after her. And then Logan shows up, and he's like, what's up? How are you? And she's like, oh my God, you're supposed to be dead. And he's like, yeah, you would know, wouldn't, because you buried me. He says, you've known me since I was 6. And she's like, well, now you're one of them. You're not one of us anymore. And he's like, oh, wow. And then he threatens her by, like, getting all up in her neck. He, like, comes around from behind and, like, whispers in her ear. I hated it. It was very uncomfortable. They're in a crowded school hallway when he does it, so I know somebody in that room saw him do it too. Jeremy tries to bond with Tyler over both of them being artists because he saw earlier Tyler's artwork. And Tyler, instead of, like, letting the past go, just like brings Vicky up in a really gross way. And he's like, what? Just because we were with the same girl, you think we're friends? Why don't you go ask all the other guys she's been with to be your friend? And Jeremy's like, bro. And then they like push each other. And the new teacher, Rick, and the mayor break it up. And the mayor's like, don't worry about it. I got this. And he like takes both of them and takes them outside. And Rick is just like, that is suspicious. I will be following you. And he goes after them. Outside, Caroline gets picked up by Logan, who is like, let me give you a ride home, Caroline. And she's like, absolutely. Matt sees her get in the car with him, and Matt's like, I hate that. And then in the car, Logan bashes Caroline's head into the window. So Matt had a right to be suspicious, I guess. In another part of outside the school, the mayor brings Tyler and Jeremy outside and is basically like, okay, boys, fight. And Tyler's like, Dad, no. And he's like embarrassed and sad. And Jeremy's like, no, I think not. I will not be doing that. He goes to walk away, and the mayor's like, don't make me make you do it. You fight each other like men. We're men in this house. And Rick comes out right at that moment. Mr. Alaric Saltzman. He walks out, and he's like, what's going on here? And the mayor's like, absolutely nothing. Go back inside. And Rick's like, I don't think I will. And he's like, who are you talking to? Do I look like a student to you? And Rick's like, no. You look like a fully grown alpha male douchebag. The mayor like puffs up at Rick, and Rick is my favorite kind of guy because he doesn't like puff up. He just stands there like, please, I would love it if you would hit me. I dare you to hit me first. The mayor backs down immediately because he senses that Rick is the stronger man in this situation, and Rick is a little crazy. I think that's what he gives off, is like, come at me, I dare you, I'm hiding a gun. And then Jeremy's standing there with Rick, and he's like, wow, you're the coolest man I've ever seen in my life. And Rick is like, yeah, I know. The sheriff realizes that Logan stole Caroline, and while they're on the phone, he's like, I'm going to turn your daughter into a vampire, and you can't do anything to stop me. And then he almost gets in a car accident, and Stefan snatches Caroline out of the car, and Damon snatches Logan out of the car. And then he's like, oh my God, Miss Forbes, like, don't worry, I've got him, I'm on this road, blah blah blah. And so Stefan takes Caroline to safety, and Damon proceeds to attempt to torture Logan with the wooden bullets and a crowbar. And then Logan is like, I'm not going to tell you who turned me because I don't know. And Damon's like, okay, cool, I'm going to knock your head off with this crowbar. And he swings, and Logan is like, wait, I do know who turned me. Also, I know about the crypt under the church that you want to open, and we can help you open it. And Damon's like, we? Before Logan can tell him more, the sheriff pulls up. So he's like, quick, make it look real. Take me down and make it look real. And Logan's like, okay. And Logan like attacks him. He like pushes him into the car, and the sheriff rocks up, and she's like, what happened? Where'd he go? And Damon's like, I don't know, Sheriff. I wasn't strong enough. Back at the school, Jeremy goes after Tyler one more time, and he's like, dude, what happened back there? Like, is your dad always like that? And Tyler's like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. And Jeremy's like, well, I'm just saying, man, like, is that what you deal with? And Tyler just freaking rocks back and decks him in the face, and Jeremy's like bleeding from the nose, and he's like, why are you like this? What is wrong with you? What is your problem? And Tyler like stumbles away, and he's like, I don't know. I don't know. And behind him in the shot, like framed by trees, is just a perfect full moon. Then in the car, driving Stefan home, Elena is like, look, the bad stuff in my life was already here before you got here. And yes, you added some more to it, but you've also added a lot of good, and I want to be with you. And Stefan is like, I know this is hard, but I'm doing this for you. We can't be together. He gets out of the car. She takes a second, decides absolutely not, gets out of the car and follows him. And she's like, no, if you leave, you're leaving for you because you can't make this decision for me. That's not fair. I love you and I pick you and I want to be with you. And Stefan's back is to us in the shot. He turns around, he's crying. And I will give Paul Wesley this. This is a great moment. Okay, this is very romantic because he's giving us expression. He's giving us emotion. He's giving something other than cardboard box on his face. And he turns around and he's crying and he walks to Elena and they kiss. Back at the warehouse, Logan comes outside because now it's nighttime and he can come out. And he's going to his car and then he gets like stopped, like something scares him. He turns. When he turns back around, Rick is in front of him. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Alaric Saltzman is in the warehouse parking lot with Logan. How did he know he was there? We don't know, but he's like, I'm Jenna's friend. Logan like rears back and is like, "Rah," and goes to attack him, and then Rick freaking stakes him in the heart. And he's clearly shaken up about it. He's like shaken and his eyes are wide and he's like, oh my God. And he just leaves. He just leaves the body in the parking lot, does not attempt to hide it, does not attempt to do anything with the vehicle. He just leaves. In Stefan's room, him and Elena are having a little moment post hookup. And he's like, let me go get you some water. He goes to get her water. She's exploring his room. Anybody want to guess what we think she finds? That's right. The picture of Catherine. She is disgusted. Stefan comes back into the room, immediately finds it because, he left it on the freaking table. I don't know why he didn't hide that. I don't know why it wasn't put somewhere safe. And then he also sees that she left her necklace that she's not supposed to take off because if she takes it off, she can be compelled. We go to her in the car. She's driving. She's very distraught, very upset. All of a sudden, there's somebody in the road. She crashes. And then through her like broken window, she can see the person that she hit. And she's like, oh my God, I hit someone. Oh no. The person stands up and starts like zombie popping their limbs back into place. It is so gross. And so then she's horrified. She starts screaming. They get up to the car. They go to bend down. She screams. Episode's over. So we come back and Elena's just been in the car wreck and she is freaking out because this person is like coming towards her. She's screaming bloody murder. Right when they get to her, before they bend down, they like pause and then they flicker, like whoosh, out of existence. So we know they're a vampire, confirmed. And then Damon shows up and like jumps down at the bottom of the car and scares her. And he is so concerned. He's like, what is going on? You look stuck. What happened? And she's like, get me out of here. I can't get out. He tries to flip the vehicle. That's his first plan of attack, is just flip the SUV over. That doesn't work. So he like cuts her out by the seatbelt and like fireman style carries her out. And he's like, okay, can you stand? Are you okay? Is anything broken? And she is like distraught and also very unwell. So she's like falling down in his arms and he is so concerned. And all she can say is, I look like her. And then she just passes out. Then we go to Rick, who is journaling because it's the Vampire Diaries. So of course he's journaling about how he killed this vampire and he's clearly like shaken up about it. So again, he's not a vampire. He's freaking out that he actually killed a vampire. We flash back to his wife who is dead. We don't know what happened to her, but she is like a writer who's like obsessed with studying vampires. We go back to the car where Damon has taken Elena on a trip to Georgia. And initially she's like, wow, I don't want to be here. You need to let me out of the vehicle. When he pulls over to let her out of the car, she like almost falls and he like flash steps over to her and he's like, are you okay? But he like is being genuine and she's like, I'm fine, leave me alone. And then when Stefan calls, Stefan's like, let me talk to Elena. And Elena's like, yeah, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And Damon's like, yes, she doesn't want to talk to you, but I'll take good care of her. You have a good day. Bye-bye. And then he hangs up on him. Damon manages to convince Elena to just go ahead and go with him and take the trip. He's like, let's take a time out because your life sucks. Everything's going wrong. Time out. We'll go on this trip. We're almost there. Just come with me. It'll be fun. She agrees. because Damon's very persuasive. I also love this moment because she's like, "Am I gonna be safe with you?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Do you promise not to use compulsion on me?" And he's like, "Yes." And then she goes, "Can I trust you?" And he's like, "Get in the car." We then see Rick outside of the school, like, looking for his, ring in the car because he's dropped it, and he's, like, talking to Jeremy, but it's kind of confirmation that his ring is not a daylight ring because if he was a vampire, he would be barbecuing on fire in the sun right now. So, not a vampire, confirmed. Damon has taken them to a bar outside Atlanta, and inside there's, like, this really pretty lady who's just like, "Oh my god, my honey pie," and she, like, jumps over the bar and just starts making out with Damon. And Elena is like, "Ugh, what?" And then we end up finding out that like the reason why he needed to go visit her was because the tomb situation has fallen through since Emily blew up the crystal. And the Bree, her name is Bree the witch, she's like, yeah, homie, I don't know what to tell you. You cannot change the spell. Like Emily made the spell, the crystal had to be part of the spell. She blew up the crystal. No more spell. They are stuck in the tomb. At the library, Jeremy meets a new girl named Anna who's like super cute and quirky, and they keep like bumping into each other and giggling and being all awkward and cute together. And she has like a lot of info on the library. She says she's homeschooled, so she's like, I study here all the time. And he's like, oh, okay, awesome. Weird girls, homeschool, makes sense. And they kind of bond over like the history that he's looking up because she's like fascinated by all the stuff in town. And he's like, yeah, I'm looking into, like the spooky stuff. And she's like, oh, the vampires. So she knows about the vampire myths, which is a little suspicious. Bonnie is not at school. She's at Graham's house looking for a way to get her magic back. And when Grams shows up to talk to her about it, she's like, honey, you're not going to find it in a book. The only way to get your magic back if you're blocked is to clear out whatever is scaring you. And Bonnie's like, I can't tell you what that is, Grandma. It's really bad. And Grams is like, I can tell. You need to go handle it. So Bonnie leaves and goes to the church to try to fix that about herself. And while she's there, she gets this like weird feeling of like somebody watching her, and there's like creaking noises as if somebody's like walking up on her. Plot twist, it is just the floor beneath her feet giving way, and she falls through what used to be the floor of the church into like a stone room. Stefan calls Elena and he's like, please come home or just tell me where you are so I can come get you. And she's so upset with him for not telling her that she looks like Catherine that she just hangs up on him. And then Damon is there and he's like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And she's like, don't pretend to be nice. Okay, I know you're happy about this. Leave me alone. And he's like conflicted looking as if he doesn't know if he should be happy or if he's genuinely concerned for her. And then inside the bar, Bree, the witch, turns on a blender and she's like, you'll never guess who just walked into my bar. So that's not good. At the library, Anna tells Jeremy that her grandfather passed down these stories about vampires to her too. And he's really interested in the fact that she also has a journal, but also he just thinks that these stories aren't real. He's like, this is an allegory for like the war and like soldiers attacking at night. And she's like, no, bro, these are real vampires. Vampires were in this town. Damon and Elena at the bar talk about how she looks like Catherine. She is not mad at Damon for not telling her, which is always really interesting to me. She always like expects Stefan to tell her the truth. She never really puts those expectations on Damon until later, farther in. But right now she's just like, yeah, of course Damon lied to me. Why would he tell me the truth? So she's not mad at him. So they can talk about it. And he's basically like, you can't be related to her. You can't be part vampire because vampires can't have kids. And then she would have had to have a kid before she turned, and there's no way that that happened. Bonnie tries to open the crypt door, and then Stefan sneaks up behind her and scares her. I don't know why he didn't announce himself before literally appearing behind her, but she's like, oh my god, you scared me. And he's like, don't worry, just close your eyes. I'll get you out of here. And then he like vamp jumps out of the crypt, and she's like, why did I have to close my eyes? And he's like, I didn't want to scare you. She also tells him that she can hear the vampires in the tomb, and he's like, yeah, that sucks. And she's like, they're not in pain, are they? And he's like, not anymore. And she's like, oh, okay, if they get blood though, they'll turn back into vampires. And he's like, shh, that's not gonna happen, Bonnie. When he takes her home, he sees Grams again, and this time when she's like, good night, Stefan, he's like, good night, Sheila. And we find out that they knew each other in the 60s, and it's really sweet. She's like, I wasn't sure if you remembered me. And he's like, oh my God, of course I did. You were protesting, you were anti-war. I loved your work. You were such a powerful speaker. And she's like, thank you so much. The cops did not agree. And he's like, ooh hoo hoo. When Elena goes outside of the loud bar to talk to Jenna, who is very upset that she's still not home, she gets snatched. And when Damon goes out to follow her, he finds her phone and he's like, where's Elena? So he tracks her a little ways. He finds her like up on a tower, not very high off the ground, and she's on a ladder so she can get down, but she's like up on a tower and she's like, Damon, no, get back. And then the bro that the witch called in somebody, this vampire shows up. He's a very big, scary dude, and he starts just beating the crap out of Damon. And then he pulls out a freaking gasoline can and starts spraying Damon down with gasoline. And Damon is hurt because remember, older vampires can hurt younger vampires. So Damon is very injured. And Elena's like, please don't hurt him. What are you doing? Why are you here? And Damon's like, I don't even know who you are, man. And the guy is like, perfect. You don't even remember me. You killed my girlfriend. It's like, she went to visit Stefan and you killed her and now you're gonna die. And then Elena is like, oh, Lexi. Lexi's your girlfriend, right? So she's like, but Lexi told me that her boyfriend was a human. And he's like, yeah, I was. Clearly, I'm not anymore. How do you love somebody forever if you don't live forever? The guy goes back to killing Damon, and she's like, please don't hurt him. And he's like, look, I'm going to take him away from you. You're better off without him. And Elena's like, please, please, please don't hurt him. And she just like begs. She's like, Lexi wouldn't want you to do this. Lexi was a good person, which means you must be a good person. Please don't kill him. Please be better than this. And the guy like thinks about it for a second, and then he picks Damon up and just chucks him into a building. And Damon falls, and he's like, ugh, but he's alive. And the guy is like, I didn't do this for you. Then we go to Damon going into the bar, and the witch is like downing shots. She's clearly very upset. He confronts her, and she's like, I've been drinking vervain. If you bite me, it will hurt you. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. There's other ways to kill you. And she's like, wait. You can get into the tomb. And he's like, you are lying to me. And she's like, no, I promise. If you can get Emily's spell book, there will be a reversal spell in the spell book, and then you can reverse the spell. And he's like, where's the book? And she's like, I don't actually know. And he's like, aw, I believe you. That's why this kind of makes me sad. And then he just reaches in her chest, just like, think right in there, and just rips out her heart. It's not the last time that that's going to happen in the show, people. So buckle up. Back at the house, Elena confronts Stefan, and she's like, look, I can handle all of these new changes to my life, but this lie specifically is too much. He's like, well, you're not a Catherine replacement. You're nothing like Catherine. And she's like, when did you figure that out? After you kissed me for the first time? After we slept together, Stefan? And he's like, no, it was so much more before that. You don't even know. And she's like, what? And he proceeds to tell her that the day they met at school, that little meet cute where they bumped into each other outside the bathroom, that's not the first time they met. No. In fact, the first time they met is the night her parents died. That's right. Stefan was in the woods. He was home visiting Zach. He's in the woods for some undisclosed reason, maybe hunting. He hears the car go off the bridge. He goes to investigate. He finds the car under the water. He goes in the water. Her dad is still alive. And he's like, I can get you out. Her mom and her are unconscious. Her dad is awake. And he's like, no. Get Elena. And Stefan's like, but I can help both of you. And he's like, no, Elena. And so Stefan gets Elena out, saves her. By the time he goes back down under the water, both her parents are dead. So he basically says that the reason why he did all of this, like after saving her, then he stayed in town and like watched her like a creep from the shadows. Nobody else knew he was in town. He watched her to make sure she wasn't Catherine, and then realized she was nothing like Catherine and was like, wow, I need to know this girl. So he pretended to be a human and go to school and meet her. And then he's got one more bomb for her where she's like, so what is going on with the whole Catherine situation? Am I related to her or not? And he's like, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure you're not, because like you're a Gilbert and she's a Pierce, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I couldn't figure out how you could look so much like her. And then I found out that you're adopted. She's like, what do you mean? How do you know? And he's like, your birth certificate says you were born from your mom in the hospital, but then there's no records of your mom being at the hospital. So you're sneaked adopted, and we don't know where you came from. So she could be related to Catherine. We don't freaking know. When Elena goes home from Stefan and all his revelations, Jenna is in mom mode, and she's like, oh my God, you're in so much trouble. You can't just leave and not tell me. I don't ask for a lot, but you cannot be doing this. Don't, no. And Elena's like, really, Jenna? Am I adopted? And Jenna is just like, what? And Elena's like, yeah, so don't come at me about being truthful and honest, Jenna, because I trusted you too. And then she storms off to her room because don't forget, Elena's like 16 years old. And Aunt Jenna is like, they didn't want me to tell you. Back at the grill, we see Damon come in behind Rick, who's drinking, and Damon goes and sits down here, and then Rick is here. And this is the first time they've like been in a shot together at the bar. And I'm just frothing at the mouth because I love the two of them at the bar. But right now, Rick is like, and he starts like shaking while drinking his drink, his scotch, and we see like a flashback to him coming home the day his wife died, and we find he comes into the room and she is like standing, she's like being held up by a man, and the man is drinking from her neck, and the man is none other than freaking Damon Salvatore. So Rick back in the present is like drinking his beer, and he sets his beer down and his hand's shaking, and then he just slams his hand on the bar. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to stop this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. What a ride. That's only 11 episodes. We are 11 episodes in. I want you to think about all the nonsense that has happened. So I'll be doing 12 through 22, the rest of season 1, and we'll just see how it goes. I feel like the beginning half of this, there's a lot of exposition in the first couple episodes, so there was more to tell you, and as we get going, it's easier to just be quicker with it, with the recaps. Truly, I do not know how Mike's Mike does his in like 2 hours, and he does like multiple seasons, but oh boy, did I have a lot of info to tell you guys. So we'll just see how it goes. But I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. I'm hopefully going to do all of the Vampire Diaries. That's the goal. We're going to see how this video goes and go from there. But I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Bye.